And then this, okay, that's where I moved from place to place.
Alright, Dustin, we're live. I'm gonna turn off the TV though. What is up, everybody? We're just waiting here for a second. Just want to make sure the stream's live. Should be seeing a cool picture of Dustin's car. You excited or what, dude?
It's gonna be pretty sweet. I'm pretty excited to do this with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Should be a fun time. We have Dustin Farrell,
Yeah, it's Farrell.
whatever you want to say, and then our little guest, Dustin, aka Greg. Well, both of you guys, but
Yeah, so we got Greg coming in. He should be here.
got the Bad Apple crew today, all three of us. Hey, can you hit me with Monster?
Yeah, just so you know that one's not working.
What? Yeah, I turned it off. Not officially sponsored by Monster, but Monster, if you want to sponsor me, shout me out.
That'd be nice.
Cool. Yeah, I figure we'll wait for him. Cool. Just tell him to roll in here.
He's not gonna know where to come in at.
Gotta love waiting, dude.
Well, it's the Greg Sear special. It's always late.
Yeah. See, here you go. That's what we're looking at right there. If it's gonna load.
Black.
No, it's just your car from that shoot at the shop.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't want to load, but it's there.
So is there a live link on Facebook and everything?
Yeah, it should be.
That'd be sweet. Let's see.
And if anyone has any questions, just gonna kind of have a low key hangout session today. Nothing too crazy. No agenda. Really just gonna record until we feel like we don't want to record. So should be pretty fun. Drifters are never on time.
Hey, I was
Ever.
here early.
Oh yeah,
right?
you were here early. You're
Yeah.
one of the select few.
You can't say that.
All right, if you want to switch to the cameras, just that way, I think we're good.
Okay.
Where's that?
Oh, it's not on there yet. Yep, pretty crazy. So let's talk about yesterday, though. How was yesterday? We had our Saturday drift event and the no prep drift drag.
That no prep stuff was pretty nice.
It was pretty crazy, dude.
Yeah, we got to watch that towards the end of the night. It was pretty.
I like
crazy
the
to watch the ends.
what was that truck? Was it a Dodge, right?
Yeah, it was a Dodge 2500 single cab long bed with a Cummins.
With slicks.
4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, launching it.
It's impressive, dude. Though they're heavy.
That thing probably weighs at least, I would say 7,000-8,000 pounds, and it was moving.
What beat it was that? It was a Corvette, right? It was like a 67 or something crazy.
It was a 60s body Corvette. That thing was quiet and fast.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy.
Can't judge them quiet ones, man.
Well, and then the Teslas I thought were gonna gap, but the GTR, the white one, that was like I think it was 1,300 horsepower. It seemed like it was struggling down the road though. That was so weird.
I don't know. I didn't pay too much attention to that car. It seemed like it was pretty much in the rear-wheel drive mode the whole time.
Yeah.
It had skinnies in the front, which is kind of a weird one for me.
Mhm. Yeah, it was weird. It's cool though.
It was nice watching that grudge race between him and I believe it was a Camaro yesterday towards the end of the night.
Oh, I didn't see it.
That was a $5,000 grudge race.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty
Shit.
sweet.
That's crazy. It's cool to see that. It was cool. It's always cool to have like the drift and drag so that everyone can kind of see different things for sure. How about the drift session though? I think you were killing it. You got to drive with like Austin.
That was pretty fun
Kriegel.
time. That was a fun time.
Who else did you drive with?
drove Dave Crouch a couple runs.
That's
Ended up
right.
having a little issue. We bumped into each other and messed up a little suspension on my car, but got fixed. And
You monster trucked over his car. Yeah,
yeah, we had a little bumping.
that was pretty good. I don't know if it was great, but
It felt pretty good. Actually, had me and Andres in the car, and we kind of looked up at the sky for a minute after we bounced off the wheels. So it was pretty fun.
you got it on a GoPro too.
Yeah, I
we'll
did.
have to show that sometime when we figure out how to do that.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know how we doing all that stuff. I don't even know how to do
No.
any of this stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it seemed like that line. I don't know if I'm in love with that layout. It's cool that it's different, but definitely like to have. I kind of like the long normal main, the old school OG, but I haven't driven a million times either. So
It definitely is nice to have a change. We used to do the old main consistently because we never were able to go through the center like we are now. And
yeah,
it got pretty boring pretty quick. You just show up and it's like you pretty much can close your eyes and run the track. And now having a little bit of a variety, it makes it a little bit better.
yeah,
Especially that one's pretty fun because you build up so much speed before that, that tire wall.
that's true. I realized like the e-brake wasn't really working, so I was having to take a really wide angle, but it just it doesn't set you up very well for the next final corner at the tire wall.
Yeah, you definitely you gotta keep your momentum up. If you don't keep your momentum
Yeah.
up, you gotta have some good horsepower.
I
To make
was
it.
gonna say my 200 horsepower car doesn't really do well, so.
Nah, it's okay. I'm pretty low on power right now, so.
Oh, look who it is. Those are some pretty clean shorts. Take a seat. Oh, yeah.
I blame all the drifters, man. They don't show up.
Come take a seat, homeboy. Got your headphones set up for you. Got your chair set up for you. We can adjust it. Can you hear?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool. Yeah, so we were just talking about yesterday. How was your car?
It was good till the alternator went out about halfway through the night.
That was good. Minus the alternator. Do you find one then?
No, not yet.
Yeah, we were just talking about him monster trucking over, you said David?
Dave Crouch's car.
Did you see that?
I didn't. What I heard about it. A nice little tap.
That's
Yeah.
a good little one.
At least it didn't total it this time, so.
Yeah, it was definitely not a 350Z in the door.
I mean, that's what, you get out there, and especially with like the hot laps and the tandems, that's just what drifting is. I think that's what is a lot more interesting than having like these drags, just because you have two different, or multiple drivers at once, and you're just trying to see like, can I not hit them, but can I get really close to it the whole time?
I think with a hot lap session, it's just like, it's hard for there's too much of like a green intermediate person that just has a cage in their car. Sometimes I feel like they
Me,
need to learn
right?
Definitely. I think they need to learn the track etiquette a little more, like understand, what it takes to get out of the way and what stuff. When someone's coming at you, and you're backwards on the track. What's it gonna take for you to get out of their way? Or you gotta predict what they're doing too, and also you gotta be in the other person's shoes too. You gotta know what to do to get around them.
I think that's a good point too, because obviously I've hit a couple walls in my days so far, which is pretty recent to be honest with you. But I think the biggest struggle for me was the last time that happened. I thought I could do like a 360 spin, but if I would have just shut it down, get on the brakes, and I would have been fine. And I think like the last event and the event before that, doing that made me feel a lot more confident. And then when I went into those spins, I wasn't as scared. Or like, I'm literally getting on I'm turning around and I see you guys coming at me. I know, okay, I can throttle this and kind of rotate it in the right way, or I can just brake and kind of get out of it. So it felt like it made way more sense. But I agree. I think that's one of the biggest things that especially new people starting out don't really understand what they should be doing when they need to shut it down. And I think that's why you see, a lot of people just throttling it out, which I'm 100% guilty of. So,
I mean, and another thing is too, like if anyone has questions about that stuff, you can ask any one of us at the track. We will give as best advice as we can for predicting a situation, and it just comes with driving. I mean, that's the only thing you can do.
well, and I think, on that too, the drift clinic has been amazing. And I know like a lot of people don't want to do it because I don't know why they feel this way, but I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, I'm not a beginner. I don't need that help. But you're having people who have been on the track for a long time. You have people that know exactly what they're doing. You have Andrew Schultze, Austin Kregel's been out there. You have, DJ, you have Dustin Latimer. You have all these OG people who know the track, know how to drive. They actually know your car. And like Dustin Latimer literally has pretty much my exact car with an LS in it. So like having him say, yeah, this is perfect for your ankle. This is what you need to do. That was like, oh, I didn't know. Or like lines. Not a lot of people know about lines. They just think, okay, drift a corner to corner. But if you're setting up your first initial, initiation and it's wrong, you're going to ruin the whole run.
That too, and it's especially too when you're going through the track and like say for instance we're doing that Manji layout and stuff like that. When you're driving that track, you got to set up the first 3 corners to make that last corner.
Mm-hmm.
You got to set up your front end for that on that inside clip point so you can get that momentum and keep the momentum. And some people are just like, oh, I'll worry about that when I'm halfway through.
Right.
And then halfway through it, you're too far to the left when you need to be to the right side of the track, and now you just messed up that whole line. Now you're having to fight yourself to make it through that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make it easy at all. And I think that's where it gets frustrating too. I think another thing, and you guys probably know better than me, but I've seen as a more beginner now, advanced or intermediate, whatever the name is, but the next level, a lot of the beginners to me seem like they're running bigger tires and like these really weird setups that like look cool. And like, I'm like, oh, that car's dope. But when they get out there, they're having troubles even getting sideways, and like my E36 is on a 195 width. And that thing is slamming. And then yesterday, you guys both know, I was just the 215s and had a bad time. Super bad time.
And another thing is, too, it sucks when you're going through used tires, because I used to do that when I was first starting, too. I was go buy, half-life used tires and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's annoying, putting on a pair of tires, getting used to them, blow them up, and it's like, all right, get the next pair, and the next pair is a totally different brand. You go from, I don't know, Pirellis or something else, and it's like a slick tire to a high-performance tire, and it's like, I went from having unlimited traction to now I'm on racing slicks on the back of my car. Makes it so unpredictable all the time, and it's nice. I switched to running Ironmans on my car, and it's nice to consistently have the same tires, same size, I know what it's like putting them on my car every single time.
Well, and the cost, especially like if for me running a 15, I'm not really worried about the cost because it's like $50-$60 for new, like at the time Nanking NS20s. But now it's like, I don't know what tires I want to run, but that was like a good testament. Yesterday I ran like 2-year-old tires, which is wild, and that was like the worst experience I've ever had. But I think as a new beginner, I was using just used tires because I thought they were cheaper. But if you run like a smaller, like a 15, that's not as bad, in my opinion.
It's not even, even with having, like the 18s like I run on my car too, I'm only paying $50-$55 for a tire.
Yeah.
Because I'm running these Ironmans, and that's like the little hint of drifting is having all these. Or the little hint of drifting is an Ironman tire. We all kind of like keep it to ourselves, and we all kind of just run them, and they're great they're sticky. They last forever. I mean, I can go a whole night on a pair of tires.
That's true. Well, and the question that I've asked a couple times to a couple different people is, do you run a square setup where they'll do 2 25s fronts and rears, exact same tires, and then as the rear ones go down, they replace the front ones to the rear and then put new front ones on, versus having like a sticky front and then a kind of slidey rear. What do you think?
I personally, I have a stagger setup on my car. I run a little bit of a stickier tire in the front, but I actually run a smaller size tire in the front. I run 215s in the front versus the rear. I do 235s, 245s.
Yeah.
And I run, the Ironmans in the back, so I wouldn't declare them super sticky, but I wouldn't declare them super.
What are you
soft.
running on the front?
Some cheap tires.
Oh, you don't even know?
Yeah, I just wanted to. There were some cheap sticky tires that I got at the tire shop when I was going there.
Okay. Because I haven't run a square. I've only run like stickies, but nothing like crazy. I think like the most square setup was like an NTO, or no, just NT 555s, and then like just some Nankings in the rear. But they were pretty much like a little bit different on those.
See, with like especially like the front 240s and stuff like that, there's no way I could run a squared setup because I got 10.5s in the rear. There's no way I'm gonna put a 10.5 in the front.
What are you running on the front then?
The front of mine right now are 8.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll be about a 9 after I'm done building them.
Because I think mine are like the same width. They're just a different for the tires. They're not the same width.
Probably a different offset.
That's interesting. Well, what do you think about people like running like 9s and 9.5s then on the front?
I used to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
You like the 8s better?
It just clears everything a lot better. I don't have to worry about any rubbing issues.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because my offsets on the BMW are like plus 50.
Yeah.
The OEM wheels are crazy stupid.
Yeah, I got plus 30 on mine right now. So.
Jeez. Yeah, but those are nice wheels for sure. How about you, Greg? What are you running?
For tires, on the front of the car, I got a Proxys R888s.
Oh, really?
And then in the rear, I'm just running, what are they? I think they're just Nankings in the back, to be honest with you.
They last a while.
Yeah, I've just got a little K24 in the car, so all 80 horsepower.
Me and you, bro, we're like right there.
Yeah. Just out there to have fun at this point.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It was cool. It's been cool pitting with all the Bad Apple guys too. Just like I think the vibe there is really cool. And then like having everyone, if someone breaks down, everyone's like, "Yo, what's going on?" Like yesterday, I had like a little overheating situation, figured out in a couple minutes, and we were good to go. Your alternator situation, we can really figure it out, but like every time.
We did figure it out. We tried jumping in all kinds of stuff, and it just continued to not want to charge. The signal wire was giving it power and everything. It's just inside of it was actually just wasted. So it must have just been an old one.
Yeah. Are there any questions, by the way?
No.
Okay. I just heard some tapping. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing too, like the thing that I like most about drifting as like a car sport is definitely like the community involvement, but also I would say like just the fact that like there's always a push to get the car back out. Like it's never like, yo, let's just pack it in, my whole front end is done. Let's pack it. It's like, yo, can we fix this? Can we, yank on this? Shout out to like Stacy and the Bad Apple crew doing the whole transmission, literally doing a brand new transmission in like what, 2 hours? Was it that one time? Like a year ago?
I'm pretty sure that one event we had jacked up on the trailer. I'm pretty sure we did that thing like an hour.
It was an hour,
Yeah.
Dylan took off to go.
Exactly.
He has to
A
make the
whole
trans.
transmission.
Yeah, you
They
guys
were
went.
pulling it out while we were driving.
Yeah, by the time we got back, we had the bell housing on it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
That's badass, but that's how it is. Like ran in like yesterday with your throttle cable, get some tools, run them back down, fix it, then run it back out.
Yeah.
Like you don't really see that in a lot of like autocross or, I mean, I guess you do see it in more of like the pro events, but I feel like drifting kind of brings that grassroots kind of feel to it. You know what I mean? So
Everyone's there to help each other.
yeah. And that's what I think, like, some people feel like it's cliquey, but, it's always kind of scary in general to walk up to someone you don't really know. But I feel like drifting is really open with that. There's not a lot of other cultures that are as accepting for new people at all. And it's a great sport to just get into. You can just literally take your car out and run it if you wanted to.
Yeah, you've got a rear-wheel drive car and just go out there and just send it.
Yeah.
Well, the diff up and go.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And that's what I was saying. I tell everyone, they're like, yo, so I got this car. What should I do? And I'm like, well, the problem that most people are going to do is they're going to build out this whole car, and then they're not going to get the seat time to even drive this whole car that they built. And I was like, when I've gone through the whole process, I literally went out there with an open diff, which is, I would not recommend it, but that's just what happened. And then open diff, ran it, and I hated it, but I got a couple sideways. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, dude. Next event was welded, and I'm literally like stock suspension, stock cooling, stock tires, like probably way too bigger tires. And then that second event when I welded it, I got to go to the drift clinic, and they were like, hey, this is what we'd recommend for like the tire setup for this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then as I kept on doing it, I'd do little upgrades. But I think like even yesterday at the drift event, I had a couple people walk over, and they were talking to me about their car. And they're asking like, oh, well, what should I do? I have this, like, I have this kind of car. I'm thinking about doing this, like a whole coil system, all these seats, all these harnesses, the harness bar. And it's like, yeah, you can do that. But I think what's more important is to get out there and drive. And then as you need it, you upgrade. So like doing it like that versus just, oh, here's a fully built car.
I definitely think the safety thing is definitely a key factor. I mean, doing seats and harnesses and stuff like that. If you're really thinking about getting into it, it's definitely a nice thing to do.
Well, what would you say? So say I just bought a brand new FRS, right? Not a brand new one, but for me, like it's a used whatever, right? So like I'm ready to drift. I literally brand stock. What are my first upgrades? Do you think?
I would definitely take it to an event, see how it feels, feel it out. And I think I would go. The LSDs in them cars are pretty legit.
Mm-hmm. They'll handle getting sideways and
yeah.
Okay.
There's quite a few of them. I drove actually quite a few of the FRSs and BRZs.
Right.
They're pretty fun to drive actually. Like the suspension on them things actually really nice, so you can get away with doing like just a coilover setup on them.
Could you run just stock?
Yeah, you can run stock
suspension?
ones. Yeah, you could for a couple events and just figure out what you want to do with it and make sure it's something you actually like want to continue doing instead of building it and then you're kind of like eh.
Yeah.
So I mean, I drove a couple of them. I mean, dude, the angle kits on them are like probably key factors. They don't have very much steering angle on them.
Really?
So I would definitely go with like a coils and an angle kit on them.
Okay.
The PBM angle kits are pretty nice. Like Joe has on his car. That's pretty nice.
Oh, and he's a great example too of like a guy just going out. I remember I think it was 6 months ago.
I remember his first couple events.
First event, I remember him.
Yeah, he was at the orange car. He was at clinic and he didn't know anyone. I was like, hey, dude, just come over here. Like if you need tools or whatever. Now he's out there killing it.
Yeah.
Joe, you have a loud exhaust, just so you know. That thing is loud if you're listening. But,
That car is loud.
but I mean, that's a cool example too, because he did exactly pretty much what I'm saying, you know. And yeah, there's a couple like things that he did aesthetically just because whatever, but you don't need, you just no need to complicate it, you know. We don't got to get crazy. You're not Forrest Wang out the gate. No one is. A lot of people that are in the gate are still not Forrest Wang after a couple of years. So I think it's cool, and I think that back to kind of what I was saying, I just hope that people don't overcomplicate it, because that's really where I see people drop out, is where you don't get the seat time and you have your car, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. You have your car in your garage, it's on jack stands because you think you're going to work on it here and there. Then over the years, over the days or the months, whatever it is, you start piling shit on top of the car. You're like, oh, okay, well, I still got to do this. Oh, I don't want to pay for this. And then it kind of becomes not a priority. And that's where we find these cars that are worth, you know, let's say $5,000, they're selling it for like $1,000. They're just like, oh, it's just taking up space. It just has all these, you know, extras here. I don't need that. I don't want it. And then they just drop out. But I just think that like too many people get into that area and then they just lose that passion. But I think that's what Bad Apples does really well, is because like you bought a brand new chassis, right? And it had no engine, literally nothing. And you put that together in like what, 4 weeks? Or everyone put it together in like 4 weeks?
I think with it all hands on, it was like a little over a month.
Yeah. For the coupe.
For the coupe, yeah.
See, and then that's what I'm saying. Like you can do that. And I think another aspect of that, of the whole drifting thing, is you don't need to do things yourself. And I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, I got to do all this work myself. But like not everyone is good at everything.
Exactly.
And so like a lot of people are good at different things, and like Dustin's great at wiring. So like having him just go through my wiring and just get everything fixed up was like perfect. But I don't know anything. I'm looking at these wires. I'm like, yo, I have no idea. No idea what I'm even looking at.
Wide my own car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would never have known how to do that.
So that, I think that was cool. And I think that is what people need, just to like ask for help sometimes. Like, and even if it's just a friend that, hey, look over my car, just check it. Just have someone help you, dude. Because it is just as frustrating, again, seeing the car on jack stands, because I've been there too, looking at it, I'm like, dude, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea.
It's always good to ask questions when it comes to a car. You don't want to go out on a track and some bolts be loose, and next thing you know, your wheels fall off.
Dylan.
Yeah, we'll call out Dylan on that one.
No, that's true.
I mean, and definitely, I mean, like I said, you can always ask the questions. I mean, I've learned from, I smoked 4 or 5 ECUs on my old car when I was putting my SR in and stuff like that, just because I didn't know about the whole SR swaps and the harness, you know, the couple pins you got to swap around and stuff like that. I didn't know that. I kept doing it myself and couldn't figure out why. I plug an ECU in and smoke, and in my hands, it would literally smoke my hands.
Wow.
Eventually, I got to the point where I started reaching out, and I talked to a couple people, like, oh, you gotta do this. I switched it and fired my car up that same night.
Jeez, really?
Yeah, it took me 3 months to figure that out.
And like what, 5 ECUs?
Yeah, like $500-600.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think that's what people need to do. Especially for anyone that's kind of looking to get into it, or I've heard a lot of people be like, yo, I want to drift, but there's just like this or this holding me back on doing it. But it's just, everyone wants to build the Forrest Wang car, you know, the Chelsea DeNofa car where it's like perfect in every way, but it's just not how it happens ever. Like, you're never going to have a dialed in car, ever. Even the pros, even I think, I forget his name, the guy with the orange E36 or E30, Andy something, I think.
I know who you're talking about.
Do you remember his name?
No, I'm drawing a blank on his last name.
Well, I apologize for not remembering your name, but I saw a post today. He literally was like, hey, I was in a final run, was about to run, literally welds came apart or something like that. And like, that's a built car. That is a built car. It's a dope car. It's super built. It's just what happens. Like, that's just what happens. You can never, you like literally, if you overbuild your car, it's going to break. It's going to break if you don't build it.
There's going to be problems every event. I mean, I went from having boost leaks and popping couplers every run and stuff like that. It's just, it is what it is. You're not going to have a perfect car every time.
Right, exactly. But I think that's what people want, and I would love to have a perfect car. It's just not realistic. It's just not realistic. Even if I had $100,000, I don't think I could build a car that would never break.
Well, it is. You know, what do we do with these cars? We go out there and we're throwing them into each other. We're popping the clutches 4 or 5 times a run and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, true.
Stuff's gonna break. I mean, I go through axles like every month. That's just.
Yeah.
But I mean. Yeah, if you're ever behind me and I some reason stop and you see bolts go flying, it's because I broke the axle.
Yeah, or the tire D beads again. That's what you get for stretching it, bro.
Stance life.
Well, and it is kind of weird though too. Like, definitely now it's like drifting and like the car shows like are coming into like a one like situation. You know what I mean? Like you have these really really nice cars that are drifting, but then they get like messed up and it's like, oh, like my car is broken.
Yeah.
But that's like what drifting is. But then it's like also I get it where they're coming from. They built this super nice car and now it's broken because somebody hit it. You know.
I mean, it is what it is. Like, if you're gonna build a car, you gotta know it's gonna happen. I mean, I was the same way. Like, I built this really nice car, and I was like, oh, I want to keep it perfect, so I started hitting stuff, and I was just like, it sucks. Like, I put this time and money to make it nice and stuff, but it's just gonna get hit into it.
Right.
So I got to the point now where like I built this ar, and I was like, I made sure I got a KBD body kit so everything can flex. Like, prime example, yesterday hitting into David, I hit it with like a little my wheel and mostly my like bumper and bash bar. It just put a little scratch on it, and I just put bumper back on, aligned the suspension, and went again.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the cool thing about you gotta explore your options and see what you can do to try to make the thing survive, and especially having bash bars and stuff like that. If you're gonna be tandeming, you're gonna smash into somebody with your front corner a bash bar. It's a great thing to have on that too.
I would say too. I mean, I obviously agree with that because that bash bar that Seth made for me, Seth Franklin, it saved my car. Like the internals, like yeah, things got a little bent, but I also hit a wall with that. If I didn't have it, I would have like hit the engine.
Oh, you could have that frame rail might have crushed it.
Yeah. So like definitely, and that's why even yesterday, kind of hot lapping and stuff, like not having that bar is like, kind of a little sketchy because like anything, it's really right there. Oh, sorry. Someone have a question or something?
We kind of went over it. Someone asked about the drift clinic and how does it work and how much does it cost.
Nebula Films asked that.
Okay, cool. Shout out to Nebula Films, aka Ben. And actually, and that's another good example. He just bought an E46. Pretty much, it's kind of built. Previous owner, David Lloyd, crazy Subaru. I forget his Instagram. It's like 2J something, right?
No, it's
or Drifteroo. That's what it is.
Look up Drifteroo.
Yeah. So he has this amazing looking Subaru, and he has this E46, excuse me, that he built. And it's not fully built. I know that it has like a hydro setup and a couple other little things, but Ben has never drifted. First event yesterday. Luckily, he came in pit with us just in case anything happened. Didn't have any issues, which is crazy for Beamers. I think that's not possible. I mean, you can ask Chelsea, right? Chelsea DeNofa has gone through the same thing. And he was out there slinging it and, watching some initiations. One of our friends, Jeremy, sat in with him and really showed him the lines. Again, is a big, big, big thing. I mean, just having the right lines makes a difference. And seriously, I just want to emphasize that again, just because no one does that. Like, no one knows, none of the drifters that are really good remember, oh yeah, I got to teach lines. Because it's like a fundamental, right? It's like the basic block, but that's a big deal. Like, that literally will make an event not fun. So, going on a little bit of rant here. So, Ben did the initiation, and then I started watching him, getting some slides going on, really like kind of filling out the car. Going back to what I was just saying too, he had big tires, so he just wasn't able to sling it around. So he had a couple issues, but he's working past it. It was awesome seeing him out there. It was really cool, like just seeing him enjoy it and also seeing the car getting sideways. But to answer the drift clinic, I think, and the costs always change, but for here in Arizona, it's about 120, I think. I think, and that includes
140. With the night drift.
Yeah, exactly. So that's drifting plus the clinic, and really all it is whatever time you roll in, get your car ready, you go out there, and then
it's from like noon to 4 or 5 usually.
Yeah, and they've changed it a couple times. Where it was like 8 to 12 and like 4 or noon to whatever.
Times in the wintertime,
yeah,
a bunch of people. So.
Well, and like with that, all that really happens is you show up. You go down into the track, you have the pros, you have people that are good locally, and one thing, I've been to the drift clinic a lot, because again, I would still say I'm a beginner, but luckily I'm like good enough to like kind of tandem sometimes, and so you go down there and you're now grouped with these guys that know what they're doing. And the biggest thing that I've seen is these people who have never drifted, there'll be questions like, hey, who hasn't been here before, right? And then, some people are like, oh, I don't want to raise my hand. But that's a big deal because if they know that you haven't driven, they're going to make sure that they're sitting with you or things like that. So really just being honest and just saying, hey, yeah, I'm new, or like, hey, I really would love someone to drive with me or like sit in my seat, or just some feedback. And then once you're paired, I mean, literally, depending on who you're paired with and also depending on your style or your skill level, you might start out with some donuts, doing right and left, which helps a ton, kind of get a feel of what it feels like to actually slide. Then you move to like a figure eight situation, and then you move to more of a track situation.
Well, and also too with the figure eights and doing right and left donuts, teaches you, because sometimes when you're doing it left, the cone's right in front of you. Doing it right, the cone's far away from you. And it's just a different thing. But doing like the figure eights teaches a little bit of a transition and stuff like that. And then
Right.
It's definitely something to look into. I mean, if you got time, come down to Go Faster at the events and do the clinics.
If you don't have time, make time.
Well, yeah.
Right? Like it literally, that is more seat time than you'll get at most track events.
Yeah.
Most.
Yeah.
And
it definitely helps though.
right.
I mean, you come down, we got pretty much all us bad apple guys down there and stuff like that helping out. And I mean, if you got questions, you can always hit us up and we'll try to answer what we can.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think too, like you were saying, the figure eights, like for me, it's still pretty fresh. Like being essentially pretty new to the scene overall. I think the circles and the donuts and stuff were pretty easy for me. Whatever, they're easy in general, right? Donuts are pretty easy in general, but going to the figure eights, I was like, oh shit, I don't even know what I'm doing, because you're literally going into, so you're kind of initiating, and then you have to go in circle, and then you have to switch, and the switch was so hard. It just took a second to like click. But that's like essentially everything in drifting. Like you're always transitioning. You have to transition,
You can't
right?
just do one giant
Exactly.
circle donut,
Right. So like that was a big thing, and I think once I got that down, then focusing on the lines, the initiation, and understanding the car helped a ton. And I think that's another thing that people will do is, like, they don't really know where to initiate, and then they don't know how to really initiate. And when you ask again, like good skill driver, I'm saying like very good drivers, like really good drivers, like easily could be pro, probably could any day they wanted to, but they'll just say, oh, just send it. Not super helpful.
No,
Not super helpful. And I get like they don't remember what it's like, but it's like, I need a little bit. Give me something else. Like what does that mean? Just send it. Like I'll just send it, but now I hit a wall. You know what I mean, dude?
You send it too far.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, long story, very long on that one. Definitely just come out, be honest. If we're again, there's no pretentious people in drifting really. It's very far in between, compared to other places. Everyone wants everyone to be better, and no one wants to keep someone down. Because at the end of the day, if you're better and if you're really good, then you can actually drift of that person. So it's like, I mean, you're helping me get a lot better too, and that's fun for me, but I'm sure it's somewhat fun for you.
Oh, it's always nice seeing someone progress.
Right.
It makes me feel good, showing people what it took, for me to learn. Sometimes I didn't have the help and stuff like that, and it was nice to show somebody what I know that I feel like that they all, need to know.
Well, and I think it helps kind of you as a teacher though too. Like you're like, oh, like this is a fundamental maybe that I haven't been really focusing on. Like maybe my lines I haven't really been thinking of as much as I could be. Now that I'm teaching, someone's like, oh yeah, well, why am I not doing that? Or kind of like even sitting in their car and feeling how like, oh, that car is a little different than mine. Okay, this is how a car, or even, and this helps too. Like it sounds crazy, but like having someone drive your car, giving you the feedback, because when you're new, you don't know like, oh, is the car dialed in correctly? I don't know. You have no idea. But then when someone else sits in there that knows how to drive, even if they've never driven that type of car before, they get in there like, oh, yeah, it's pretty snappy here, or like the clutch is kind of weird here. So this is what you do to compensate. And I think that's a really, really big help too. Like, Dustin Latimer getting into my car and actually going and driving this car with stock seats, because I was literally driving. I'd go into initiation and I'm like gripping onto the steering wheel, like, because I don't have bucket seats, right? So and they're leather seats, so I'm sliding across everything. And another big thing that I was doing is like holding the shifter, just because I was used to it. He's like, dude, you got to hold on the steering wheel. And I was like, okay. Started holding that, trying to hold on for dear life. And then he's like, let me just slam it around. He goes and slams it. He literally throws it in as hard as he can. He goes, whoop, and it goes across the whole, and hits the door. You know what I mean? And that's like, for him, he's like, oh, okay, I get why maybe you're doing it this way because of your seats, like, are not holding you in. Do it this way. And that was like a cool way to compensate. And then he put me in his car, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm connected with the car and I'm not sliding around inside.
Exactly.
So
yeah, definitely the bucket seat probably helped you out the most right there instead of sliding around.
Yeah, but it's not a necessary thing, and that I just again want to emphasize, like, anyone that's listening that is, interested in drifting, like, we don't need to overcomplicate things. None of these drifters, including me or Dustin or Rich, unfortunately, if anyone wants to give me money, send it over. But no one's rich, no one's building the cars, and the people that are building the cars are not really drifting. So
you're sitting in the garage just building your car.
Exactly.
All the time, so.
And I get it. Like and there's a lot of people that do that, and no offense towards them. I'm just saying, if you're interested in becoming a good driver or a better driver or driving at all, let's focus on getting you on the track rather than building it out and overbuilding it, complicating things like that. So
Yeah, seat time is definitely the key to drifting. That teaches you so much. I mean, because every time you're driving, you learn something new almost every time.
Right.
If you're not learning something new, you must think you know it all.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you still learn stuff, right?
Oh, I learn stuff every time.
Especially, I think, like we were talking about earlier, before we started everything, having you follow different people that have a different level of skill or just a different driving style kind of teaches you how to take different corners, because you probably fall into a rhythm of, okay, this is my lines, this is my corners. But if you're tandeming, you got to be able to adapt.
Well, whenever you're tandeming too, you're always following. You're trying to mimic that line that person's doing. So you always got to compensate for. You're watching them. You're not really trying to watch. You try to watch forward of them a little bit, but you're pretty much just watching them and also trying to watch like what their hands are doing and stuff like that too. Because if they're going full lock and they're starting flailing around, something might be happening. You need to watch out. So
yeah, I think too. Like, I'll ask if we have any questions in a second, but watching drifting and being in a car drifting is two different things.
It definitely is.
Because I remember watching it and I was like, oh, FD's sick. Locals are like cool. And there's like a couple that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dope. And I was like, oh, they're not really that close. They're not really like this. Like FD, literally, they're trading paint. And then you get in the car and you're like, oh my gosh, stop. You're about to hit them, dude. Like, you're really, like, really
you're
close.
looking out the window, you can just reach out and just out their door.
Yeah.
You're like, oh man. This
But
is
when
crazy.
you're spectating, it seems a lot of the time like it's a lot more of a gap. It doesn't feel as intense unless you're in the car. And you're like, oh shit. Like, these guys are getting really close. It doesn't. It's not FD, but it's pretty close, like, all together. So
I mean, like I said, especially when you do, all these people have GoPros and stuff like that too. So it's kind of crazy watching each other and stuff like that.
yeah, the GoPros make it hard though, because the wide field makes it look like you're not close.
Yeah, exactly.
So annoying.
Like, whenever someone films on their phone inside my car,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, dude, that looks sweet. But I look at my GoPro, I'm like, oh man, I just used a phone.
Dude, like the video of you in Forest, Desert Meehan last year.
Oh,
that was crazy.
See, on the phone,
that was crazy, dude.
That was close. Like, that was stupid close.
Because Brianna was in his car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember watching that video, and it's like, watching the front turn around, like, oh shit, he's right there.
Yeah, Brianna was in his car taking a video, and then I had my buddy Hayden in my car too, and he was taking a video and looked back, and it's like, I swear his tire was rubbing my door. I was like, oh, that's nuts, man.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I literally thought he touched my car, but apparently he didn't.
Well, that and honestly, like, that was a super fun event. Like, that was something that I think Arizona needed a little bit. You have these other events like Lone Star and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, this is sick. And there's just like big skid pads that are just like mapped out. But like having it felt a little bit more grassroots, but back to, I guess, what I was trying to get at is it was really cool. And seriously, like, it was so cool. Like, there's A, B, and C group, right? And in those groups, we had, I would say, and whether this was intentional or not, I hope it was intentional, but there was different skills. So, A was like the really good people, B was like the pretty good people, and C was like the good people, right? Because everyone there was a good driver. There was not one person that wasn't a good driver that was driving. So it was cool that Forrest was willing to go to each of those groups.
Yeah, he didn't just particular go to one.
Yeah, and I was like, geez, dude, like that is what drifting is. Just because you're a really good drifter doesn't make you better than anyone else. And again, that's kind of where drifting, I feel, is different than a lot of other sports, because, no offense to the no prep guys, but you're watching these guys like, you got this big truck towing this big truck on slicks, probably over $100,000, and yeah, easily, right? But I'm just saying, like, per car, $100,000 per car. And it's, I've talked to a couple of those people that are in that area, and they don't really want to talk. And I get it. And I'm not, there's just a different kind of culture. But I think with Forrest being willing to do that and just slaying it with everyone was so cool. And I think that like you guys drifting, like that shows like you were in C group and you're a great driver and you guys just slang it. Like you guys were tandeming together.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
I'll say that 2J on my door was really loud. I couldn't even hear
Dude,
my own
yeah, his
anymore.
car is set up, dude. That car is dope.
Yeah.
And I like Forrest because he's a chill dude.
Oh,
He's and that's why he did that. But he's just a super chill, laid back dude.
Yeah, and that's how pretty much a lot of us are. We all laid back, and like I said, if you have questions too, we all answer them too. The same thing when I was talking to him about his setup and stuff, and he was talking to everyone just like a normal person. So.
Right. I'm sorry, that was a long thing. Anything else that I missed?
Preston asked how XDC went for you yesterday, Austin.
We didn't run XDC last month. So for anyone watching that doesn't know me or Dustin, or does but doesn't know what happened, my dumbass, I have a E36. We did an M50 manifold swap, and the speed sensor wasn't connected, so the ECU was on like a limp mode. This is all after the fact. I didn't know until we kind of got out there. So the RPMs were kind of stuck and things like that. So luckily Preston helped me out. We got the car running, and then we got it running well because we connected the speed sensor. It gave me the free range RPM because when I was initiating, it would only go to like 55 and it goes all the way to 7 normally. You know what I mean?
That's still crazy.
Yeah, and it was bad. So luckily he helped me out. We fixed it. Sophia came in clutch. She showed us like a couple diagrams and was like, hey, this is kind of what's missing. So once we connected that, I think there was somewhere where I had to go, and then I let him just kind of drive it, make sure the car was good. And then I came back and I was like, well, let me just ride with you and see how it is. So we're now on XCC. By the way, XCC we don't normally run, and that's like a pretty like. How fast do you think you normally run XCC?
I mean XCC we try to run it almost into the end of the night,
Right.
Usually, but sometimes
Of
the drag
course.
racing goes late and stuff like that.
But how fast do you think you're going on that?
I mean, definitely 80 plus.
Yeah.
At least.
So it's a fast course, and
I mean-
Pro-Am runs on that course too.
Yeah, Pro-Am last year was pretty crazy watching these guys enter the 100 plus.
They
Like, oh,
did.
man.
And some of them were killing it too. It was like a brand new track, and they were just murdering it.
Yeah, that was especially after since they repaved it like a couple events before that.
Yeah,
So it was pretty
exactly.
slick for
That's
these
right.
guys.
Yeah,
There was no rubber laid down in the back where they were taking off, so they're just blowing the tires off the whole way, trying to get some traction in their cars.
exactly.
Very
Yes.
cool.
So, I was letting him drive it. I was in the passenger seat, and he was killing it. I was like, geez, I didn't know the car could do this. Pat Reynolds did a new alignment on it. Felt amazing. Like literally phenomenal. I've never had that car feel that good. So, Preston is just killing it, going super fast, having these nice angles, whatever. So then he does a couple passes. I'm like, all right, let me hop in this, dude. I'm going to sling it, right? So I get in there, bro. I line up, and I was just in my head. I was like, well, I can't let him outshine me when this is my car, right? So I'm going to fucking whip it just as hard as he did. And next thing you know, dude, first initiation, I think honestly what happened is I just gave it a little bit too much spirit. That I think was fine, but then I snapped it too hard the other way, and then did a whole 360. And this is back to what we were talking about, right? Having the track etiquette, knowing what to do when your car is having those situations, instead of doing the right thing, which was braking, shutting it down. I thought I'd be cool, Mr. Cool Guy, do a 360 and then continue on, right? So I did a 360 coming out of it. I gave it throttle. I thought my wheels were left. They were pointed right. And the next thing you know, I slam into a wall. So
That's something. I mean, like I said, track etiquette. Like, it's just track etiquette. It's just car control. That's something you learn from mistakes and stuff like that. Now you've understood. Now you're
Right.
starting to really understand.
But I feel like, again, no one really said like that's what you should do. Like, hey, if your car spins, and maybe they did, but maybe I didn't grasp how important that was. But like, hey, when your car spins, you probably shouldn't accelerate and slam on your gas. Some situations, yes. Typically, if you just shut it down, you'll be fine as a beginner.
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you're spinning out and stuff like that, usually you try to not stand on it midway through and try to make a cool 360 and stuff. So try to shut it down and try to figure out where you're pointing and once you figure out where you're pointing, you need to figure out your next move.
Right,
So
exactly.
you're pointing at a wall, you probably should be hitting the brakes.
But I thought it was the other. It just happens so quick. I mean, it's just like a car accident essentially. It happens
much.
that fast. So
It does.
until you have I'm sure have a lot more. You're a lot quicker to respond on things. But as a beginner, I was like, I think I'm good, and I wasn't. So, long story long on that as well. Did not run XCC this time. Did run it last event, and I did the same entry and didn't crash
Yeah, the XAC we didn't run because they have the no prep.
because of no prep.
And no prep didn't end until. I think
What
it was
time
about-
do we leave? 2:30.
It was about 3 o'clock. They were doing
Oh
last
my
runs.
gosh. Yeah, man. Those like just going back to that. Those cars are so crazy.
You got
Like you have GTRs. You have an all-wheel drive car skipping down the track at the end, hopping.
Mhm.
That's scary. With that much power, dude.
Yeah, think about 1,000 horsepower trying to get some traction. It's pretty hard.
Like, and that's what's crazy too. Like watching those guys, like it's not even about horsepower a lot of the time. It's about the grip, horsepower to grip ratio that they were able to stay on track.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're just spinning. Like
Oh,
literally, they're just doing a rolling burnout the whole fucking
I mean,
quarter.
that's all a no prep situation is. It's just bare asphalt. They can't do anything to it. Some of the places they let you do like pimp juice and stuff like that.
Right.
Get some stick down there, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the time they're not doing that. Like no prep's like you show up, you do a burnout, water burnouts only. That's what
Right.
they were doing last
Yeah.
time. I'm pretty sure it was water burnouts only, and that's all you get.
Yeah. What is it? Is that actually what's called pimp juice?
That's what I've heard a lot of terms of calling them. So
Well, it's like, is that sticky stuff that they heat the ground and then they put that on there?
it's like they do the burnout and stuff on it. It's like
It's super sticky
it's
though,
just
right?
like it's like sugar. They drop sugar
Oh,
on the ground.
okay.
It just gets real sticky type thing.
Yeah, because I've been at like those outlaw races
Mm-hmm.
out in like 303 or whatever.
Out in Mexico.
Yeah, sorry, Mexico. And yeah, like they have like the whole prep, but yeah, there's a lot less prep at that than there is out there.
There is times that you will see them out there with torches and stuff like that.
That's
They're
what I'm
heating
saying.
the ground
Yeah,
and stuff like
exactly.
that.
But they weren't doing it there.
And sometimes I think when they're heating the ground though is when they already have rubber there and they're trying to get it to soften back up.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense. Is there any other things?
Not as of right now.
Cool. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Hey, Greg, we need 3 shots.
Of what?
I don't know. Ask your boy. I'm not even joking.
You want some shots?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
No.
I'll be back.
Just whatever it is. Just make sure it hurts Dustin.
Oh come on, man.
Yeah. Thank you, dude.
3-5.
I feel like I'm just going to end up ranting a lot.
That's how it goes, man.
Too bad you missed Weckfest this year, though.
Well,
Lame ass.
transitioning to jobs and stuff like that was definitely holding me back on my money situation. So
No, what do you do for work again now?
I do body work,
Okay.
collision work, I guess you would call it.
So that's like, is it, you've done like self-taught or?
Yeah, I definitely started from the bottom of the totem pole at this body shop. I always knew I wanted to do something with cars, and I kind of got into the collision work from doing a couple paint jobs and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's something I want to do, and now I'm doing collision work for a living, and I love it. It's pretty fun. Nice work. It's always a different thing every single time.
Yeah.
Never the same hit. You can have 2 cars next to each other that hit this, same quarter, and it's gonna have, different damage between the two. So it's always different every day.
How did you get into that though? Like what was your first step into that whole situation?
I became an apprentice. Actually,
Okay.
I got my foot in the door.
How do you even become an apprentice? I don't know.
Just basically find a body man and show that you can actually work on vehicles and stuff like that. So
Like someone like a friend of a friend, or you just walked into a collision place and was like, yo, where's the body man at?
you can kind of do that. It was kind of
Really?
Yeah,
You can?
yeah,
Oh, jeez.
You can kind of show your applications and stuff like that, and be like, hey, like I can do this and stuff. But you have to have experience. So I guess it would come with like maybe just like backyard stuff. But there's also like EVIT and stuff like that takes you for collision work, and there's schooling for collision work. So
Well, I mean, personally, again, my very personal opinion is I think that apprenticeships are going to be better because, you get to school and it's kind of outdated, and then you end up coming into things, and it's like, hey, everything that, what's up, dudes? I'm gonna do whatever you pour for me, but oh, and welcome Dom. This is Dom. I'm not sure if he's in camera shot.
I've been outside painting.
But just to finish that thought while they're finishing the shots, that rhymed. I think, overall, I went to MCC for my generals, but going into like apprenticeships gives you real life applications. And on top of that, like actually teaches you things that people are using. Because there's a lot of times you'll go to school and it's like, hey, I learned all this stuff. And they're like, yo, that stuff doesn't matter. Like, we don't do anything like that. So
You guys have a question.
go for it.
Real
Oh, here we go.
Wait, who asked? Wait, who was it though?
Wrong person in the room for this kind of question.
Yo,
No, we're
get
good.
one.
Yeah.
You're not gonna pour your boy one?
No, he's got it right
You
there.
got the captain right there.
What?
Oh, this one's yours?
I want that.
Yeah, mine's
Oh, my bad. So wait, who is Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan.
Oh
Oh
no,
man. Okay.
this
Dylan.
is gonna be an
Hey,
interesting conversation.
Here we go,
I
Dylan.
came with the wrong time.
Oh,
So let's put it this way. So
go for it, dude.
Yesterday, little accident with David. Look what happened to my wheels.
what happened to it? I thought they were fine.
I put a nice little scuff in the lip. All right.
Which wheel?
On my SSRs. On my Struces. I put a little dent
Are
in the lip.
SSRs real wheels or fake wheels?
They're real wheels.
Okay. I'm just
So,
making sure we're
Now
making it.
let's put it this way. If I would have had the XXRs on the front of my car like I still had,
Wheel would have shattered.
that wheel would have shattered. I've shattered them things on rumble strips, not even going over top of them.
Yeah.
I've blown them up on everything. I've hit potholes and blown them up. So yesterday that would have been a blown wheel, guarantee it.
All right, let's take a shot before we get into this conversation because it's gonna get a little wild. I feel like. Because my opinion is a little different than a lot of other people's opinion, and everyone else's opinion is a lot different than theirs. Dude, that Jim Bean's actually pretty good.
This is the captain from the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody just gave it to me, so I put it
Not sponsored by Captain Morgan, but again, if you want to sponsor us,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like Captain.
Well, so here's a good question then. Cosmos wheels, are they real wheels or reps?
This is a question I think it's been asked so many times.
Hey, I've been told both.
I've been told both.
I've been
and
told
I can't
both.
tell. I can't tell.
You got to have an opinion on this.
I think
Dom, what do you think?
Oh god.
See, no one wants to answer this. This is why we take shots before this question. Greg, anyone?
They're definitely a lot. They're definitely a strong wheel. They're definitely not
They're a
XXR quality.
stronger wheel. I don't see them being a direct replica of anything.
But typically, when they say reps, that's not
But
what they're talking
typically
about,
when
right?
they say reps, they're talking about like your cast.
Yeah, the cast aluminum, the pop aluminum or
You're
whatever
not
they.
strong. It's gonna shatter. It's gonna crack. You're not good wheel.
Yeah,
But like
Yeah.
Cosmos, I've seen them like smack walls hard, and they're fine.
exactly,
Totally fine.
exactly.
So real wheel or fake wheel?
I like my real wheels, man.
That's not the question. What is a Cosmos? 'Cause-
Cosmos is a good starter.
Okay.
It's not your like hot boy wheel like Dustin, but it's a good start.
That's it.
It's
You
the
can't answer the
in-between-
question. It's just-
It's the in between the XXR and the SSR.
so they're like
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a good in between. It's not real and it's not fake.
But I mean, between a real wheel and a fake wheel, I guess it's just like Japan wheels and our wheels here, technically. Like XXR, well, not
yes
here,
and
but
no, but because you have like companies like BBS and you have companies like no, they're in Japan now. BBS is Japan now, isn't it? They started in Germany.
but it's still like an out of country thing, I guess.
Something
You was,
like that.
yeah.
But I mean, even still, like Rotiform, I don't even know where the fuck they are.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Okay, they do
whatever.
Rotiform,
All
so-
those other wheels in different countries. U.S. isn't doing very well with their wheels.
Well, I think that Cosmos is kind of validated by the fact that they have a company that replicates Cosmos wheels, which is wild.
That's true.
Which is wild.
That is wild.
That is wild because Cosmoses are not that expensive,
No.
and they're pretty nice. But I don't think we need a rep.
Autocons are actually more expensive.
I think they are too, actually.
they?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is definitely crazy. I'm surprised all that stuff's happening already.
So the main question was fake or real wheels, right? That was Dylan's question.
Yes.
I don't know. I'll put one of his wheels on the front of my car and do the same thing. We'll see what happens to it.
Well, and you know, my counter argument to that is I think that you should go with the wheel you can afford.
I think so too.
But yeah, see, people would disagree with that.
There's some people that disagree.
And I
I-
hear you. But again, I will say for drifting, like starting out. Hey, I mean, I'm running OEM wheels, so
The right wording for, okay, you know what? Your OEM wheels are made by BBS.
yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't really have a dog in the fight. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm running OEM, but I would tell you that I wouldn't be against running a rep. Personally, I'm not saying I'm not saying it's the right thing or wrong thing. All I'm saying is I would hate for someone to spend $2 or $3 grand on wheels for them to break on the track. Because
That's the risk they're taking.
they should, they should.
Yeah.
I know, but they should last longer. Like I do agree. Obviously, reps will not outlast a real wheel. I'm not disagreeing with that, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, if you run into a wall, into a rumble strip, or another car, all of those things are very possible. I would feel a lot more happy replacing a $200 wheel versus a $1,000 wheel, $500 wheel,
But
whatever.
here's the thing, though.
But
But
here's the thing: are
but-
you running a 3-piece wheel? Or you're running like a gram light.
See-
Because first of all, you shouldn't be running gram lights on a track. You should be doing that like autocross.
exactly.
True.
Well,
If
like
True.
you're drifting and you're running a 3-piece wheel, you're replacing a $150 lip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
That's
like,
fair.
So like
That's
yesterday, the damaging my lip. It's like, oh, let's throw another $140 lip
and
on
I mean,
it.
if you have like a wholesale account with whoever, you know what I mean? Like we know a few people that do stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
They grab them from places for like $120.
Yeah, exactly. So
So you
it's
can
like,
spend that much on an entire wrap, but like.
I mean, you could barely get an XXR for less than 170.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say,
at
yeah,
the
like
same
150.
time, you're not ruining your tire. You're not ruining anything else in your suspension. Like if a rep breaks, you're ruining like a lot more, and you're risking a lot more.
That's fair.
With like say, what if your entire brake disc hits the ground because the rep just exploded? And
I
you know
mean,
what I mean?
we
Like,
see
Yeah.
so many
ruined
pictures.
your hub
We see
and-
so many
Yeah, I was
pictures
gonna
of
say,
that.
yeah, we've all
Exactly.
seen
You see
those,
stuff
yeah.
like that all the time. So I
Yeah.
mean, do you want to take the risk of blowing up a rep and having it ruin a lot more of your car rather
Mhm.
than hitting the lip of your wheel and it not doing anything?
Let's be
That's
honest
fair.
here. We see all these guys in Japan drifting. They slam into each other. They put fat dents in their lips, and they're out there with a hammer beating them back.
Oh, no,
They're like,
beating
we're
them
good.
back out. No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Can you do that with a rep wheel?
No.
No.
You could
If
try.
you try
You'd
and
probably
beat it
shatter
back out,
it.
It's gonna break even
Yeah, I was
more.
gonna say. So I guess we don't have an answer for that.
Rear wheels?
I would go real.
I know, but then you have to define the real wheels. Is a Cosmos a real wheel?
Three-piece wheels.
Is a Vordovan a real
agree.
wheel?
I mean, 3-piece wheels are a little heavy, so I mean, I agree with doing a 3-piece when it comes to drifting, regardless of them being too heavy, because
I ain't worried about
you're
weight.
not risking as much with your car.
Mhm.
You really aren't, and you're not worried about weight too. Power.
Well, and that is
Not much, man.
that is a good point though. Jesse Robles is a big believer in his dad won the SEMA. His car, the Honda, won SEMA, and he's a big believer in the mass, the rotating mass. So like I think that's a great point. And he said it even if it's like 10 pounds, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, but you're not gonna find a rep that's lighter than a real wheel.
And actually I'm agreeing with you 100%.
The whole thing about that though is like, yeah, I get that, like the rotating mass, whatever, but you also want to realize when you're doing heavy duty tracking or if you're drifting or whatever, your tires are less likely to debead if you have some sort of a stretch on a real wheel as opposed to a rep, because tires don't bead,
So
tires don't bead properly on a rep as
let's
the real
rephrase
wheel.
that one. So we had a little fun experience trying to take my tire off my SSRs the other
Yeah.
day. We had to fight that thing for like
Really?
20
Well, see, that's what I'm
minutes.
saying though. Like your bead's gonna stick. You're not gonna.
Well, on a
bead.
three-piece wheel, most of the time you're doing your flat lip, and it's gonna have 4 or 5 inches worth of a flat area, and you're gonna have that one mount surface that you can
Yeah.
bring the tire in. That's all you got. So you're fighting this thing the whole time.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, you don't have those like easy surfaces to mount a tire on a rep that you do a real wheel.
Yeah.
So it's like really difficult to hold a bead on a rep.
Yeah, I found that firsthand.
Yeah, but a good point too. Would you want to bang out your rear, like your actual wheel? Like if you have a real wheel, would you rather bang it out or just replace it?
If it's
What do you
Well, it's just gonna be a lid unless you
If
put
it's
a
just
face
a
on it.
lid.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you were trying
even
to
if it's just a
hold air-
barrel, I'm just gonna do it
Oh
too.
no, yeah, just like
I'm just
smack
gonna
it.
But isn't that going to ruin like the integrity of the wheel itself, banging
The
it back
lip?
out like that? Yeah, the wheel, barrel, lip.
Just lip.
Okay.
The face shouldn't
I
have
mean,
really
it'll
moved.
last you until you need to replace it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
If anything, just rebalance it.
What's a balance? I don't know. man.
Yeah, right. Another question too directly from Bad Apple Motorsports. Shout out. When you're first, I'm guessing this is directed towards Dustin. I would assume. It says when your first S13 got wrecked, did you consider switching to a different chassis, or is the S chassis your preferred chassis to drive?
So there was definitely a lot of thought that I was gonna change chassis. I was actually thinking about switching to a BMW chassis actually, but at the point that I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, man, I've had this S chassis for years, and I got so accommodated to it. I know everything about an S chassis. It was like there was no point for me to switch. I knew everything about it. I know what I got to do to every single one of them to make it work, and how much easier it is to work on for me, at least knowing everything. Switching to a different car would be a different world.
Right.
So I think it's definitely easier for me to say that I would rather switch it than that chassis.
Well, and you guys, I mean, just as bad apples in general, you guys mostly use those as chassis anyways, and you have all those parts, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, it'd be kind of dumb in a sense to switch. And and another question just from me, what chassis would you switch to if you had to? Like, what would even be comparable, you think?
Comparable?
Like, what would you do if you had to?
If I had to switch chassis, I think I would go to like an E46 chassis.
Really?
I would think I would go that.
You would run the E46 engine, though, or you'd do
No,
a swap?
man, I
Yeah,
put
of
my
course.
JZ in it.
I was going to say the chassis is cool. The
I'm
chassis is cool, but yeah, the engine is not fun.
I'm taking the BMW stuff out of it.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you, dude. Same. I wish I could. We kind of did, right, with the wiring, though. So
Well,
we would just have the
good.
vacuum lines that are all JB welded. JB Weld, if you want to sponsor this, dude, I use that on everything, bro. I got to cut JB Weld. It's true, though. You guys know that. You guys know this. You guys seen me JB Weld everything, bro. So.
We got a square foot hole in his gas tank. We just put some JB Weld on it.
What else did you put on that? JB Weld and what else?
Oh, the gas tank? That?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I don't know. It was like, literally, it ended up being like 5 different coats of JB Weld and like, essentially like saran wrap almost. It is disgusting. You know?
I can't wait to pull that thing out.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be interesting to see how bad that actually was.
Yeah, 'cause we only saw it through that little hole.
Cause yeah, and I still I didn't see anything leaking last night, but definitely smelled a lot of gas. And then the gas like pump itself was like not having a good time. So I think there's probably a big issue there.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
I
like
could hear it whining
super,
from
yeah,
outside the car
yeah, I
in
know,
my car.
yeah, I know, dude, it's bad. So
wonder-
it's not normally that loud ever.
I wonder if you were getting low on gas too.
I mean, I put 3 gallons in before, but I mean, it's probably a mixture of, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, yeah.
3 gallons of gas is not even gonna last me like a couple runs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's probably what happened. Is there any other questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I've always struggled with the real wheel, fake wheel kind of situation. I know Dom's a pretty big believer in real wheels. And I definitely would not, and I think maybe it's just a brand thing, but I definitely wouldn't run XXRs just because of the things I've seen. But I think, yeah, no. Well, hold on. I was gonna say the big thing is I think my thought is like rep to XXR is like established, so I'm like, no, I would not run XXRs. But then my brain is like, well, other reps, like, oh, it kind of gets a little washy, you know. I'm like, right, and I agree, but it's just like the XXRs have that bad name now. But then like other reps, I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, but it's still the same thing.
They're also the same. I bet you they're almost almost manufactured at the same place, type of thing.
More than likely.
It's like coilovers.
Yeah,
Most of them.
yeah, that's a good point. I almost because like the BCs.
That's a really good comparison.
Yeah, that I was gonna
Versus buying
say
eBay coils.
exactly because they'll work. They'll kind of work. I mean, they'll kind of work, but why spend 400 when you could spend $1,000, right? I mean, K Sports are roughly around 1,000. You have BC's about 1,000. Fortune's about 12, right? Just the average cost.
Yeah, about
or
that.
like an eBay coil's like 455. So it's like, why not just buy a real coil? That's a really good comparison for sure.
That is a good comparison because I mean, a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm not gonna buy eBay coils, but they're gonna go out and buy like JNCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna buy eBay
Why are you
coilovers.
gonna buy real coils but not real wheels? It's the same thing.
Mhm.
Why are you gonna put on like an eBay manifold and not a real?
I've never
I
looked
just
at it
you know
like
what I mean?
that.
Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
Now he's got my mind running.
I know, right?
That's why, like, that's the point that I try to make to everybody. It's just like, why are you gonna put all this like fake stuff on your car that's literally just going to like ruin your car in the end?
Well, let's talk about Greg Sears KAT swap.
Oh,
What about it?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
How many eBay parts did you use on that?
do I have to leave?
They're not
I
wheels,
think
so
the
you're okay.
manifold was like CX Racing. Everything else was tile, the blow valve wastegate.
Okay, that's not that bad.
Was it a turbo eBay too?
Oh yeah, nice eBay turbo.
And what would have happened if that thing probably ran?
I would have blew up. Probably the whole thing. But
If it ran, it didn't.
If it ran, that's the problem.
I kept running into like ECU issues.
But that was also your fault too.
No, we could blame that on Dylan for not wiring in my relay, but I know you're watching.
I was gonna say, he's like, watch. He's like, yo, fuck you, Greg.
Hey, hey, he ain't gonna make you dinner for a couple days.
True. And actually, speaking of, so Dylan asked, 1UZ or JZ?
Oh, okay, there we go.
That and honestly, that is a good question
That
because
is a good-
recently I've been seeing a lot more UZs. We have Darren's UZ that's boosted. What was he running? 16 psi yesterday.
No, I was only running like 9.
Oh, okay, but it was going like it sounded
It
good.
definitely-
It was a
definitely-
ripper.
It definitely
It was a
ripped.
ripper.
Once he gets
Moving.
his tune figured out, it's gonna be a really great setup.
What is the 1UZ? Is it LS? Is that what it comes through?
I was wondering.
400.
LS 400.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have that.
Just a
How
4
much? How
liter.
much is one of those engines then?
You can. I mean, they're starting to go up in price because all the strippers are starting to buy them.
right.
I found them for a lot cheaper.
I mean, when it was
Really?
first starting to happen, we picked up a couple for koi for like $150, $200 bucks.
Literally
Like
Whoa,
you can find it
really?
for under $500.
Oh, jeez.
And they're pretty bulletproof motors. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Toyota, I would give them that. I made that
Mhm.
motor stupid reliable. I mean, I know Justin Anger was running his at like 245, 250 coolant temps repeatedly, and we pegged out the gauge at 260, and it's perfectly fine. Like
Really?
still ran.
Jeez, oh my god.
I looked over the coolant's coming out of there faster.
Yeah, I
than it's
bet,
getting in.
dude.
I'm like, man.
Holy hell.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of that car, and that thing ran. I mean, when we first got the motor, it sat outside, it locked up. We had to put some WD-40 and plastic on the cylinders, broke it loose, and that thing was spitting walnuts out of it. 'Cause there was rats in the cylinders and stuff. And
What?
I will say that was a
What?
good running motor, man.
That really happened?
Dude, there was nuts coming out.
Oh
of
my
it. Like, I'm talking
gosh.
like walnuts or something coming out of it, flying out the cylinders.
Wasn't your brother saying something like his engine had like sand in it too?
Yeah, it always had sand.
Oh
in it.
my gosh,
Yeah.
dude. So what would you do then? 1UZ or JZ? If you were going from a KA,
I do a Jay-Z.
really still?
I still do Jay-Z.
You would do JZ? What do you think?
Oh, I like all the boosts, man. There's more.
But you can boost the UZ, right?
All right, so you can't buy like. You have to get the perfect, UZ mode. You have to get the 90 to
That's
92.
true. Yeah.
Mm.
Any
It's
Jay-Z.
easier to boost a Jay-Z.
Well, Jay-Z's are already boosted,
Exactly.
but
you could buy an already boosted or buy like
you would have
the
to make your
manifolds
you have
for
to
a
make your own
non-boosted.
manifolds. You have to do everything for a UZ.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely more difficult.
So
The UZs are kind of cool though.
They
I
are.
mean, you don't even really have to do much to it, right?
yeah.
So
I have a little input
go
on
ahead.
this Jay-Z situation.
Lay it down. Lay it down.
Jay-Z versus
Lay it
Jay-Z.
down.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Uh
I
oh.
love you.
Here we go.
But if you were
She had to take a knee
so-
for this.
Yeah, take a knee. If you are so Jay-Z, why are you still running a KA when you have
Dang. Dang.
Jay-Z sitting in actually my garage?
Oh no. Oh no.
But that reasoning that you had sold it for
Mm-hmm.
is not happening at the moment.
School doesn't start till January.
Where's the money though?
Somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
I don't know if you can tell there's a lot of shade being thrown in this room.
Someone set her on this one.
No, nobody sent me on this one.
She just want to lay down some fire on you.
I had to lay down that fire because you were like immediately like Jay-Z, and then
Oh.
Swap everything.
I remember.
My good.
You know what? I remember when he was trying to trade his Jay-Z for Koi's 1UZ.
Okay.
Someone talks about they love
There it
Jay-Z
is.
so much.
There it is.
Got called out.
Oh shit. Dang, the chat is lighting your ass up right now, Greg. Congratulations.
It's probably all the homies.
You're definitely not wrong, but
I will say
Uh.
I don't think after driving Darren's 1UZ that was pretty sweet. I can't say that.
but he's still trying to dial it in. It wasn't 100%, right?
Yeah, and he's definitely he'll be the first one here in Arizona to do the Turbo 1UZ, and it's really cool that he's doing everything by himself. He's
Yeah.
doing tuning. I mean, he's gotten himself into the tuning portion of it. And that's definitely a lot.
Well, and that's a big thing. I mean, just I jokingly say it, but I literally call him the wizard, right? Because he literally knows everything. Like like yesterday, I was like, "Hey, I need this bolt." he looked at a picture, he looked at where it goes. He's like, literally goes into a box, boom, here it is. That's it. And like the wiring. And then when I crashed the last time, he literally was like, oh, it's just a carrier bushing. There you go. It's fixed.
Yeah.
It's like 2 seconds. So
Yeah.
like he's super, super wicked smart. And then, you know, having that car done by himself with Bad Apple help and then also tuning it himself, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. Like I can't even tune anything. I can tune my TV and that's pretty much where it stops.
I'll tune a stereo. I'm
Yeah,
good. That's
there
as far
you
as
go,
I'm getting
right?
into it.
Yeah, that's where it stops, dude. But yeah, no, that car is badass.
Definitely between the two, like driving his car to my car, it was cool. That car grips, and especially with that Wisefab V2 in the front of it, it was scary. That thing was just absolutely got all the angle in the world. That thing carried its speed unbelievably. And then go back to my car, I was like, you know, the response of mine and stuff like that was pretty nice. But like I said, he's got a really big turbo on it. When that thing comes alive, that thing comes alive. It will pull you in your seat.
Do you know what turbo he's running on that?
I want to say a Borg Warner. Is it SC3? SC366 maybe? I don't remember.
No, I don't remember either.
I just know Borg
Well, what do you guys think about an LS then? Because someone asked that. Like, you know, you have all those things. LS, JZ. Now the UZ, I would say, is coming in. But realistically, it's mostly the JZ and LS is like the conversation, right?
I think a UZ is cool if they had a little more aftermarket support for maybe doing like turbo systems and stuff on it. But then it is a high compression small V8. So, I mean, it's going to be really nice for doing, you know, tight little turbo setups on them and stuff like that. LSs are great. I can't go wrong with the LS, but they want a pretty penny for them, and I guarantee a UZ is just going to be as much as an LS eventually.
How much would like an LS1 be?
After doing T56 and stuff, in a 240, to do a LS swap, I bet you're going to be 8-10.
Really?
Minimum.
Just for the engine?
That's like maybe running at that point.
$8,000 to $10,000 for an LS?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it? Greg's making some faces like he's saying you're wrong.
T56s are at least $2,000.
Well, no, we're just saying the engine though. Just the engine.
You need the trans.
Yeah, I know. Well, so the JZ, does it have like an adapter plate that adapts to like the stock trans? Because you need to do the same thing there, right?
You'll never run a KA trans behind a JZ.
Okay. So what trans are you running?
I'm running a Pontiac Solstice trans at AR5.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So it's kind of a weird mix.
That is pretty weird.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it works.
yeah. So I mean, there's people that are running CDs. There's people that are
The
running
CD009s,
Yeah.
right? Out of the
350Zs.
350.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a certain year that they had that.
So the engines, though, I mean, JZ to LS, what are we looking at on cost? What does that look like?
JZs are definitely a lot cheaper.
I've seen some of them like $2,000.
Well, you're only gonna get that with like motor and automatic trans. You still do the trans setup. The trans setup's like, you know, $1,000-$1,500. So you're gonna you're probably $3,000 into your motor and trans setup. Motor mounts are $200. You use KA motor mounts. Get a drive shaft made and just some wiring and stuff like that. And it's not that hard to do.
Well, and then both engines would require standalone engine management, right?
Nope. Stock ECU. You can use stock ECU on some of the LSs. I think you have to get them out of the GTO so you can get to use the pedal and stuff like the gas pedal.
Oh, really?
Electronic pedal. And
Oh,
stuff like
okay.
that.
Because, I mean, it seems like everyone wants to do an LS. Well, I'll rephrase that. It sounds like everyone wants to do a LS or a JZ, and it just depends if you're domestic or import. That's literally like what is your style, and that's what everyone goes with.
So,
Whatever
I mean,
one.
Let's be honest. Like, so like, you're gonna get LS, and their LS ones are like 350 horsepower or so, I believe. Which is more than a JZ stock. I can't get that wrong. You got torque on demand. You got burp and throttle torque right now. That's the thing about V8. I can't go wrong with that.
Right. Well, you have like Andrew, you know, Schulte just
power
killing
right
it with his LS.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then you have, what is Austin running, a 2J?
Austin's running 2J.
So Austin Kragel's running, and both of them fantastic drivers.
Yeah, the same thing with like Nick Gross too. He had his.
Oh yeah, great point.
That thing was.
Is
quick.
he? So what is he running right now in LS then?
What LS? I don't remember what LS in particular he has, but
Because that's a ripper too.
that thing.
Okay,
rips.
okay. How about Jesse? What is Jesse running?
One
Robles.
JZ.
1J. So there's a great example. That's a great mixture of 4 fantastic drivers that are just killing it.
And I mean, Jesse's car is quick.
That car is crazy. I think it has to do with his driving style though, because he is aggressive, and that's what makes it so cool.
He made over 500 horsepower on that JZ.
Damn.
Just with turbo manifold injectors in a tune.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
My favorite part about him drifting though is literally, you can see like the OGs versus like the new style is the initiation point on main.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, he takes that first corner and does the whole thing, and
Exactly.
everyone else is like either doing manjis or like a late initiation, myself included. But he's just ripping it.
He's actually the guy that got me started on it. He's like, I think you have enough power to start right here, and I'm like, all right, and I started doing it. And I'm like, this is great.
You could probably I think he does it even a little further back, doesn't he?
He's got also.
I know. I'm just saying.
300
He's a little
horsepower
further
on
back,
there.
dude. He's a little further back.
He's got 250, 300 horsepower on me.
Yeah. No. That thing is dope. What is DJ running then? 2J.
Yep.
So that's a really good mixture. And then you have like Dustin Latimer, LS.
So it's pretty much it
It's
goes
a
back and forth.
50-50 split. Literally, it's a 50-50 split.
I mean, like, I know that, like, with my car, I made more torque than horsepower, too. The JZs are pretty close on their torque to horsepower ratio. Pretty much you're making 500, you're going to pretty much make 500 torque, too.
Right.
LSs are obviously right then and there. As soon as you burp with throttle, you got that, 450, 500.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would have to do at least an LS2, LS3, and do some cams and headers and stuff like that, and get a tune on it. You'd be making 450, 500, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to do that with an LS, it's going to take a lot, doing cam work and headers and a tune and stuff like that. And a JZ, you can get a stock 1 JZ, slap big turbo on it, manifold, and injectors, and get an ECU for it, and you'll be just like how Jesse is with 500.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think those are like the big two engines and again, I think that a lot of the times, like, you don't have to switch to a new engine though either. Like, I'm not, and well, so like Tony Hall, right? He's running the KA with the turbo. What is that thing made? What did that thing make? Like 450?
Maybe 450-ish, I thought. It was pretty,
Okay.
It was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but I remember it was like a good, like way different than what a normal KA would run.
I'll just never forget when we went to Pro-Am. They opened the hood and they're like, this is a KA.
I think it was like 450 on
Pump. No, it was E.
on corn or E85,
Mhm.
Corn.
but the tune was like dialed down.
Gotcha. Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think, going really back to what we were talking about a long time ago I'm sure it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a while. Like everyone wants to build a car. Everyone wants to have a super cool car, but you can just, a lot of the time, slap a turbo on it and just call it a day.
Well, there ain't no
Like the
slapping.
KA.
You ain't slapping a turbo.
Well,
on the
I
KA.
know, but I'm just saying you don't have to switch everything. You can just keep it. And same with the M52 that I have. Literally, slap a turbo kit from CX Racing. I'm at 400 horsepower at 8 psi.
Just like your boy Jeremy.
Yeah, right, exactly.
that thing's-
With the
that-
E30.
That thing's
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah, that thing is dope. That thing is spitting fire every fucking second of its life.
That thing's crazy.
Hmm?
Jeremy with the E30, who's that?
I don't know. He has such a weird I don't know his last name.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I was like, I always look at his last name like, I don't know how to fuck to say this at all. I literally don't know.
The last thing's
That
pretty
thing's
crazy.
a rocket too.
That thing's
Oh
pretty-
yeah,
it's-
and then someone says, and then you have Pat with a 400 horsepower Miata motor and an FC. That's crazy. That's a good point.
That little one, I believe it's a 1.6 actually.
Oh really?
A 1.6 or a 1.8, I don't remember off the top of my head, but that thing's crazy.
Yeah.
That thing sounds.
And he rips
nasty.
on it really well too.
Yeah.
So I definitely love a good rotary, but they're just not very reliable. It just seems like the apex seals with the high rev constant just ends up getting washed out.
I mean, I would be down to put an REW in my car.
Oh
If I
yeah.
had the money, I'd.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right.
If I had
You
the
really
money-
would?
Yeah, if I had the money, I'd put a rotary in my car.
I don't have the money to fix it or the patience, because you're gonna have to take apart that engine like every other day.
I know a couple people that have reliable rotaries.
Who?
Let's see, there's a lot of street driven ones. I mean, Dave Crouch, he wrote his not T2, but his
Is he on a rotary right now?
No, he's on a 13.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think he
ran
was.
that thing forever on the street. That was his daily for the longest
Oh,
time.
jeez.
That thing had over 120,000 miles, I thought, at one point on it. It's had it forever.
Well, because I know like even the RX-8s, like the newer ones, not the newer
Those
ones.
ones are bad.
I know, but it's like literally you would stall the engine. If you stalled your car, you couldn't turn it on for like a couple minutes. Like you'd have to wait because it like floods and then it messes up the seals.
Yeah,
That's what I was just told. I've never had one.
There is a shutdown procedure and stuff like that for them.
And it's a cool technology though. That's the problem. Like that, and they sound so unique. Like they
Well,
sound so unique.
Well, you're
dude.
getting 3 fires per
Right.
revolution. So.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, I wish that it was just a little bit more reliable. But it's just because they're so sick. I love those. I seriously like a built Dorito is so sick. I'm serious though, right?
Give
You
it
hear
up.
like their like loping sound, and it's like, oh shit.
Oh, especially when they got the like the peripheral ports and stuff on them. They're just in there and it just sounds like I don't even know, man. It just sounds like a loping beehive. It sounds sweet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, what is that one driver that from, I think it's from Australia?
Mad Mike.
Yeah, Mad Mike. That thing is sick.
Four rotor.
Yeah, that one.
That's badass.
Dude, that's so sick.
That thing's cool. That thing's nasty. That thing breathes so much fire. Man.
But it's, I don't want to know what the money costs on that back end, though. I'm sure it costs a lot. Like every other run, he's replacing stuff. At least that's what I've been told on those seals and other like things that are involved with it. So
It just goes into how you're tuning it, how you're building it. I mean, like for instance, like my buddy Josh has a T2 and he's been driving that thing. He drove California and all kinds of stuff.
no problem.
Yeah, he drives it everywhere. Drives
Yeah.
to Tucson quite a few. No, he drives it. He drives it to Tucson, but he goes to California and drifts it at Grange and stuff like that all the time. All the time.
Well, go ahead.
Who's the kid that came out to the drift clinic a couple months back with the right hand drive?
I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but that thing was that was a
thing has
T2.
rotary in it,
Yeah, it was
so
a
does it?
T2. Yeah,
Man, that thing's bad. Slammed down.
Right-hand drive
body
what?
kit.
it was a FC.
Oh, okay.
It's super clean.
Right hand drive FC?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's dope.
Well, they
was
imported it.
Yeah, I know, but I've never seen that.
It's cool. It's like a light teal color.
Mm.
I think it's pretty fun to drive actually.
Real wheels.
Hey, man, I got the chance to slide it, and it's so
It's
weird.
dope?
It's so weird driving a rotary car.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Like the torque or?
You got nothing on the bottom, dude. You got to be
Oh,
5.5,
true.
$6,000 above to get something out of it.
That'd be weird.
You got to wind it. It's
I guess
definitely
that's like in
wound.
a good spot for drifting though, like your high rev. So.
You got to be wound. It's got to be wound up.
Yeah.
So
What would you start at, this isn't a question anyone asked, but just kind of thinking out loud. What would you start as your first drift car? Like, so if you guys so both of you, if you had to start brand new today, right? Brand, like stock car, nothing crazy. What chassis would you choose with the engine? So like, example, you can't choose an E46 with a fucking LS in it, right? But, so like if you pick a 240, you're talking about KA, et cetera, right? What would you choose as your first starting out, never drifted before a drift car?
Completely stock or
Completely stock, nothing done, literally like OEM everything. Like no ricer has touched this yet. You know what I mean? It's pretty rare, but
oh man, I think
I want to say a Z.
a Z, 350.
Yeah.
How come?
I just like them.
That was like-
one, but I just like they got more power than a K. Because most people would be like, oh yeah, I'm on a 240.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
most
you got a
people.
little dual cam in it, it's not doing much, and
Mhm.
you got what is it, a VQ in there or something like that?
yeah, it's good.
Well, it's the HR, the DE on the 350s,
So you
right?
got dual throttle
350,
body.
yeah.
Single throttle body.
Yeah.
That's got more power for you, so I just feel like it'd be better.
Well, and they do definitely like the high RPMs too. That's kind of where they live.
It's pretty much how all 6-cylinder motors are.
How is like the angle for it though? And then I guess there's a pretty good like aftermarket support for it though, right?
It's
Coming
Pretty-
around.
yeah, it's pretty much like all the Nissan motors.
Okay.
Or cars.
That's not a bad answer. I agree with that. That'd be dope.
I think I'd go with the BRZ.
Really? Why?
The suspension geometry in them cars are fantastic.
Well, so that's a big thing about those cars. They're literally set up for grip racing.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's what they were made. Like they literally designed it with really good balancing and stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean the corner balancing on the cars are great,
Mhm.
and especially the diff setup, having that LSD and stuff like that is pretty nice to start out with,
Right.
and it's a great feeling car. It's got a decent amount of power too. They're not pretty sluggish on power, so
Yeah. I guess I haven't really seen anyone struggle. I think the problem is I don't see a lot of advanced or intermediate drifters really. I see a lot of the beginners drifting those FRSs and stuff. So it's hard.
You're starting to see a lot more of them.
Yeah, I
though,
agree, but it's hard to really gauge the car when you don't have people who know how to driving those cars. So it's like, well, when I look at it, I'm like, well, it doesn't really look like it's doing much, but I think you're right. Like that would be a really good platform. And I know Dustin Meyer was talking about, I think he used to drift an FRS or a BRZ before too. So I personally still will choose an E36 if I had to start out. All right? All you 240 people out there, I'm telling you, the chassis is pretty good. It is a great grip race car. Like you will see really good track E36s, has enough power. As long as you can get by the BMW bullshit, all the vacuum lines.
Squad.
There, I don't disagree. I'm just saying if you can figure that out, plumb it out, kind of fix it up, buy a 328 IS, do an M50 manifold swap, call it a day, change a chassis when you actually get it super good. That's like a great car. And that, I've literally heard it from people who have 240s say this is the car I would start out with because the KA just doesn't have the power, but the E36 has like the aftermarket support that the 240s have.
I don't know, man. I see people slang them KAs.
Yeah, true. But it's like you have to literally initiate full throttle the entire track.
Yeah, that's fun.
You don't have to do it on the
In
E36.
my
Just
car, I'm
whoop, whoop.
all the way to the floor.
If you lift, you're done.
Yeah,
And
but
it's just like a bunch of clutch keys.
well, it's crazy to me too. Like a lot of people are still starting with Miatas, and definitely I don't have anything like genuinely. I don't have anything against them. It's just frustrating to see someone start with Miata and there's nowhere else to go. What are you gonna do? An engine swap. That's really what the next step is every single time. It's like, well, I want a little bit more power. Engine swap. What else do you want to do? Engine swap.
You can supercharge the little 1.6s, and then again, like Pat Reynolds has.
True. Okay, that's a good point. That is a good
You
point.
can turbo them and stuff like that too. So
Yeah.
there's potential.
But definitely like the KA. Does anyone really turbo those at all?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, other than like.
There's a lot of people that do.
Yeah,
There's,
a lot of
there's
Okay.
actually a lot of people do.
Bolt-on, get like a fuel pressure regulator, and then.
But it has to be a single or a dual cam for those.
Dual.
I
A
would do
dual.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we should take another shot before we continue. We have about probably another hour or so.
I mean, it's my Friday, so I'm good.
It's my Sunday, so. Dustin, you gonna handle it or what? All right, pour it out, Greg.
Jim being here, you want the captain?
So while he's doing this, another question. And here's a good question too for you guys. It says, kind of what's your thought, like your overall thought on the drifting community in Arizona? And a second question is like, what is everyone's thoughts on Formula Drift? So, good question. Honestly, that's a really good question, and I think they're kind of the answer for both of them are kind of connected too. Because I feel like, well, I mean, we'll just go from there after we do this, but that is a really good question, honestly. Because I asked myself too, because I'll wait until we do this first. Oh yeah, and then just really quick, Stacy Hall is also a great example of someone that can whip a KA around. Who's a good driver.
Single
Single
Yeah.
jingle, baby.
Yeah, see,
Single
yeah,
jingle.
because I remember, I mean, like, what was that, 2 years ago? And I was like, that was that Easter event.
The ride the wall one?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I was like,
single
holy
cam.
shit. And
That
then
was
we have
single
that
cam.
video of him drifting, and then at the end, like, him slamming his car into the wall and just doing a burnout.
That was
on his KA.
second year burnout on a single
Yeah.
cam. Single cam. That was literally.
Yeah, because I remember, like, because I was just doing media. We weren't, like, drifting at that point. So he, like, literally, he's sitting there. He slams against the wall. He starts doing burnout, takes off his steering wheel, puts it on top, and just slanging it, dude.
Yeah, that was.
That's a great example of someone who, like, legitimately kills it on a KA. So it's possible. It's just, like,
Can be done.
yeah, long, when you get really good, it's better to have, like, a more powerful
She's
car.
A little bit of a different animal when it comes to driving.
Yeah, no, yeah. Ooh. I don't like that one either. I was saying the same thing. I was expecting that vanilla stuff.
That's what I was.
Everyone's like, yo, you little bitch. Can't take a shot. You right.
Hey, Captain Morgan's good stuff, man.
Straight, not straight.
Yeah,
What?
that fucked me up a little bit. So, what do you guys think? I mean, it's a very general question, which could go a lot of different ways. But what do you think about the Arizona? We'll start there. What do you think about the Arizona scene for drifting? The community overall. It's a very general question, just by the way. Great question. I just don't know really where to answer that.
It is. We only have 2 facilities to pretty much drift at. So
Which would be what?
Muscleman,
Muscleman, which is in Tucson. So you got to have a truck and trailer or rent a U-Haul, which is kind of expensive.
or you can just go ballsy and drive it, but that's just.
Hell no.
not
wait.
too,
No. Because remember, Dustin Meyer did that, and then his car had issues, and he had to literally camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So don't do that.
yeah, we had gas
I
tank
mean,
problem.
we went down there, a year and a half ago. I still had my E36, my first drift car. We went down
Yeah.
there, and
That was your first drift car?
yeah, the
Oh, no
E36
shit.
was the first one.
Oh, okay.
My first drift car. We took a trip down to Tucson. I would always recommend to tow your car there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we went seven people deep, and
Yeah.
6 cars broke down.
Really?
It was fun.
Yeah, jeez. Everyone had a trailer except for you, or what?
No, I had a trailer, but
Oh, okay.
it was sketchy when I had
Was
a
it?
trailer.
Oh man, I think we were gonna fall off that trailer the whole way.
The car was hanging off like this.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So sorry. Yeah. So P1 in Tucson.
Yeah, it's
And just really quickly, by the way, if you're drifting in, if you're drifting here at Wild Horse, you don't really need a truck and trailer. I've done it before. Is it nice? Of course it
I
is.
used to do that I did that for years. I used to drive my
Most
car
people,
back
I mean, think about Griffin. Griffin does drive his car to the track, brings
yeah.
an extra set of tires, and then drives home. And he lives in Fountain Hills, which is very far away. So like, I just don't want people listening to this thing like, oh shit, I gotta have a truck and trailer.
We got Zach Messner. and
Zach
then we also-
Messner
and we got
with that
Chelsea-
dope-ass
Cha-
trailer,
we got
dude.
Jason that has a
Oh,
trailer.
shit.
too. He has that little trailer he hauls behind the Z.
I think he said he got his inspiration from Zach,
pretty much.
because that thing is dope.
Yeah, and
like, he's
and
just-
they both show up to the track, and they both have a little trailer behind the truck. With, you know,
Couple tires, a jack.
yeah, they got fuel.
you go.
Zach shows
Yeah.
up with fuel.
Yeah.
Well, like Zach Messner, we bought his E46 from him, and it literally he welded in a hitch.
On
So
the E.
on the E46, I was like, oh, fucking Zach Wood. So, anyways,
It's pretty nice that he built the bash bar on the back of that.
yeah, dude, it's for real.
On that FC.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry, P1 Tucson, and then we have Wild Horse.
Yep. So you pretty much got. I mean, since Bondurant took over the track, you only got pretty much Maine at the moment right now.
The track being West and Skid Pad.
Yeah, we got West Skid Pad, and then we also
Just
got,
for people who don't know.
Yeah, we got West Skid Pad and Maine, so we got a couple different varieties there. But if you want to venture out, I think if you're definitely the scene here is good. There's a lot of nice people here, and it's definitely nice being here. But venturing, if you really want to get better with your skill, I think you got to venture out too. Definitely going out of state, stuff like that. So I think that'll help out. That'll help out with getting better to drive. As a pro-am driver and stuff like that too.
Well, you're saying like when you get past. So what is the levels anyways? Beginner, advanced, intermediate, or is it intermediate, advanced?
Intermediate, advanced.
So like you're saying when you get to the advanced level, that's when you should probably start going out of state.
I think you definitely should go out of state once you learn your track etiquette and stuff like that. That's definitely a good thing to do. You never should stay at the one track. You only should venture out.
Right. So I guess overall, I mean,
The scene here is great.
the scene's good.
We
I
just
mean,
don't have all the tracks like California.
Yeah. and I think that's a pain point for, especially for local drivers who are trying to get better, that can't quite make it out of state. It's just frustrating because it's like you're not going to be able to go to a track that you don't know without going outside.
Yeah, exactly. And you're never gonna learn more unless you venture out of your comfort zones.
Right. But you're just so confined to these two tracks. I mean, hopefully, it's not a huge secret, but we are working on trying to get like something set up where we can all go together to like P1. Nothing crazy, just, have a good time, have a lot of people out. Because I think that's another thing with drifting. Someone mentioned this to me and it stuck with me for a while. Drifting is really more of a spectator sport. Because like, and like being from the autocross scene before drifting, it's fun, but it is fucking boring to watch people drive.
I think
As a
autocross,
spectator,
yeah.
as a driver that is driving autocross, I'm like, yo, he's killing it. But if I'm just a spectator, I'm like, he's just going around some cones. He's just going around the track, East track was fun to watch because you have these high horsepower cars, but even watching the videos of the cars, like, how like yesterday you had your GoPro on top, there were some cool moments that you got on that. If you watch like track, you're like, oh, he passed him. Okay, he got a little like not grippy here. Okay, he passed him.
He's making a left turn.
Exactly, yeah. So and again, I don't want to, I'm not trying to trash on it, but I'm just saying like drifting is so unique where it's fun to have people involved. Like it's fun, and that's why it's just more of a community thing because it's like fun to be like yesterday we're putting his throttle cable back on. I ran and grabbed tools, come back down. Literally, people are like, yeah, put it back on. I'm like, we're just like fixing a cable, dude.
They were getting more hyped. Than
I know, and I was
else.
like, oh shit, and it was cool, and that's the thing, you look in the stands and you see people like cheering you on,
Well, that's the
and
thing
it's
too,
so
like,
cool.
Well, like yesterday too, like especially when my throttle cable, came off, I just came to the coast right there. I was trying to get myself off the track so I don't have to worry about anything. And everyone came over the fence. Oh, what's going on, man? I'm just like, oh, it's just a cable waiting on the tools. Oh, let me help out. And I'm like, oh, it's like I just need tools.
Right. I just need like 2 wrenches.
I just need 2 wrenches, man. Just tighten it down. We're good.
Yeah.
But it was definitely cool to have people, willing to help.
Well, and I think like it's a good question though too. The community is different. I think the scene, like, I don't want to connect the tracks with the community necessarily. I definitely wish we had more of a variety, which we have been given with Meehan, and I'm sure that there'll be other things in the future. I know that they have their December event and stuff like that. So I think the community overall is super helpful, very easy to get into. You just got to kind of be a little bit outside your comfort zone, and you're in. You just got to be there. You just realistically got to be there, talk to people. And another thing that just kind of thinking off the top of my head, one rough thing for me was when I was doing media. So I was doing like photos and videos, and I really wanted to talk to the drivers, but the only time I can talk to drivers is like literally when they're changing their wheels. And like now that I'm driving, like I do want to talk to people, but I'm like, yo, I'm trying to fucking get this shit fixed right now. Like, right. And you don't want to be like a douchebag, you're not trying to be rude, but it's like, man, I'm really just like, I do want to talk to you, and I hope I'm not coming off like an asshole, but I just really need to, I got to fix this really quick, like, and I've had a lot of times like that where my car's breaking because it's a BMW, right? But I just hope like, if for anyone that's like a spectator that wants to talk to like people, and especially like, you've now met me, Dustin, and Greg. If you want to talk to us, feel free. If you're spectating, come by the pits or whatever. Just like there are like, especially with the way that we run it, not we, but the way that Go Fast runs it, we have run events or run groups, excuse me. So the better time, if you really want to have an in-depth conversation, would be before the track goes hot, and then also when the group, so intermediate, advanced,
we usually have
beginner.
an hour. We usually have an hour in between with the beginner session.
Yeah.
So if you see our cars sitting there, we're probably just sitting around, chilling around, talking and BS and stuff. But if you see our hoods are open, or you see us underneath it,
yeah,
we're cracking on and trying to get something fixed.
Yeah, and you can talk. I mean, that definitely don't feel like you can't come over, but just realize like and me speaking on both sides, like I didn't realize as a spectator, and I now realize like, oh shit, I was kind of annoying. And not like necessarily annoying, just like not at the right time. So like if anyone's looking to talk to like their favorite driver, or just have a conversation about their car, their setup, because we love, like, honestly, I'll talk to you about whatever you want. Like, again, we're just an open community like that. And that's what's so cool about Arizona scene. I'm sure it's pretty similar everywhere else, but like just do it at a time where there's not a bunch of shit going on. If we're just chilling around, come by. Don't feel like weird about it. Just be like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I saw you driving, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on? And I mean, we're just standing around anyway. Like, I'd rather like talk to someone than just stand there.
Yeah,
so
we're definitely open to talking to anybody. I'm glad if anyone shows up and starts talking to me and stuff. Like, and then going back to the whole situation about us driving our cars to the track, Justin Egger sent me a picture. And it was one of the old days when we used to drive our cars back and forth to the track. It was crazy. We used to drive things everywhere.
Jeez.
That was our daily drive.
We'll definitely have to. We'll figure out the video situation next time, because it'd be cool to like show that stuff instead of just talking about it. But yeah, I mean, like, that's possible. It's just not fun. I mean, that was the IFO, so that's not a big deal.
I mean, it was cold that morning. I remember I was putting my helmet on to try to keep it warm. It was that cold.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have cold. I mean, your car is like a furnace.
Well, that was back when I was daily, so I didn't have holes in it.
Oh, true. But yeah, I mean, that I think, and I know, Greg, you didn't talk too much, but I mean, like, you agree though, right? That's kind of like the community in general, right?
Yeah, I think our community is very open and very friendly and everything like that.
Well, and I think too, like, I think Bad Apples has genuinely been a big part of the scene. Obviously, like, Bad Apples runs a lot of the events, or at least does a lot of the work there. I mean, we came early, we set up fences yesterday. Like, we all really did do more than just run, like, join the event. We actually helped set it up, right? Yeah. And I think, like, Bad Apples in general, I mean, the reason why we're all three of us sitting at this table today is because I remember, like, very vividly, my first event, my Beamer going on a cam. You remember that, right? And I was like, and it's a very simple thing. I mean, I went into a corner, I overextended, did a little spin out, and then the car was running like garbage. And I was sitting there And like, just to be completely honest, I mean, and because I have nothing to hide about it, I didn't even wrench on my car at this point. Like, I kind of understood things, but like an oil change, I'm like, I don't really want to mess with that. Like, I don't really want to do it. And that was cool because I had that issue. I think that day there was clinic as well. And then, like, I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. And none of my friends really knew. And then I think that's when I forgot who I talked to. I think it was maybe Tony or someone like that. And then he's like, oh, I might know someone. And then you came over and you're like checking. You're like, oh, it was vacuum line. Pff, done. It was like 2 seconds. But like that really made a huge difference. And I think Bad Apples has done such a good job of like being very open and welcoming to like new people. And I'm not saying that wouldn't happen without Bad Apples, but I think that Bad Apples does the right thing all the time and will go out of the way to make sure drivers are taken care of. And I think that like you guys have helped Joe, right? He's a new driver. You've helped me. And I think that's guys why we all feel like very connected with Bad Apples, because like you guys literally are looking out for us, you know. And you guys bring the trailer, you bring the extra tools, you bring the extra jack. So it's like even if I'm missing this tool or this part, you guys are like, yo, I have it. Here you go. How much do you want? Free. Well, hold on. Are you sure? Yeah, it's good. I'm like, whoa, jeez, all right. But that's different, you know. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, well, it's on the track, so extra $100. Like, well, you know what I mean? Like your alternator yesterday, like $200 on like AutoZone or whatever. So I think overall the community is good here. I think that, you know, with DriverMod, with Bad Apples, just kind of us being together and cultivating that, I think that's what a lot of like the other scenes are missing. And again, it goes way back to what I was saying earlier. Like, drifting is just a different culture. It's just a different culture. It's just help each other, and that's it. Everywhere else is like, oh, we'll have a sick ass car, hard park it. If someone else breaks down, that sucks. I didn't bring tools. I can't help them. You know what I mean?
You gotta put a hand. You gotta have everybody out. When you
And I genuinely think it's like that everywhere. But if it's not, like, that's something that I'm definitely grateful for, and I'm glad that we've been able to continue to do. And again, I mean, to anyone again watching, you know, I'm not sure how many people are watching, but you know, if you do need help at the track, please reach out to any of us. You know, if you see the DriverMod booth, if you see the Bad Apples trailer, if you see any of us standing out there, you know, we're always willing to, you know, wrench on your car, especially, you know, again, if we're just standing around not doing anything, why not? You know, definitely we should be there and helping out. Then I do want to touch base on the, oh, yeah, I don't know. Hey, is the YouTube one not working now? Yeah, I won't worry about it. If anyone's watching it on YouTube, go to our Twitch. That's still working, I guess. We're going a little bit long. I mean, honestly, I don't really have a time set for this. I just kind of wanted to have more of an open discussion. So, I mean, I still want to do it for a little bit longer, but I'm just saying, like, you know, we might go on for a while. We'll probably do some cuts and just kind of post and kind of have people see little segments. But I appreciate everyone kind of watching and following along. You guys are bringing a lot to the conversation. And, you know, on top of that, I want to get to the FD question. But before I do that, I do want to kind of set a precedent for this podcast. The whole idea behind this is to, again, involve everyone. Like, we wouldn't be here, DriverMod wouldn't be here without everyone that's involved in it. And I want to, with this podcast, if I can speak correctly, I want everyone to feel involved because you are. And we wouldn't be here today without you guys. And it's just frank. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the mark. You know, we have all these very big, successful companies that forget about why they're that successful. And this podcast hopefully will be able to bridge gap between kind of the drivers here within our sphere, and then also the people that want to be drivers, or the people that have questions, or maybe you're like, yo, what the hell is DriverMod? Like, what the hell do you guys even do, right? Mm-hmm. I want to be able to kind of bring that to a full center. And then honestly, just to be completely frank with everyone, you know, I'd really like to shout out our local drivers. You know, I think that a lot of the marks are missed because we don't focus on our really good drivers here, and no one knows about them just because there's not a lot of exposure. I mean, DJ, right, with the Subaru is crazy, but there's not really that much exposure for him. And like, you are a fantastic driver, no exposure, right? So I would like to bring that a little bit more to the forefront and kind of help drivers get to where they want to go. So just have an open, like, we don't have any like ideas. We're not trying to push like any agenda. Just have an open discussion with everyone here. with everyone watching, and kind of go from there. So that's kind of my thought with this whole podcast. This is our first time. There's a couple things we got to work out, but I really just wanted to hard test it. I didn't want to sit here. I didn't want to practice. There should be no practicing. We should just have a fun time. Like we're just bullshitting. Exactly. Yeah. We just have mics that look cool. We have headphones that make us look cool. You know what I mean? So, I just want us to kind of have probably do every Sunday, just kind of talk about whatever topics we're thinking of, bring different people on. So if you're interested, just let me know. And then just going from there. So, yeah, I'll answer that question. I do want to follow up with this, so that was a long tangent. But as far as FD goes, I feel like, and you guys can butt in anytime you want. I feel like FD is really fun to watch, and there's really, really, really good drivers. Mm-hmm. I feel that with FD, we've really lost sight of the grassroots, but at the same time, that's the difference between FD and Lone Star, right? That's where you have the actual grassroots versus like the pro drivers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think that it would be nice to see the grassroots side of things be as exposed as the FD side of things. So I think overall, and this is me speaking just as someone that's a little bit newer into everything, I have no idea. Like, I didn't really understand this whole concept until recently, but I only saw the FD stuff. I didn't know anything about grassroots. Now that I'm involved, okay, grassroots this, grassroots that. But before that, I had no idea. So I think that there's nothing wrong with FD. I think that drifting is growing as like a whole new situation. It's a very new sport, and it's a great sport because you can get into it with $1,000 compared to like NASA where you gotta, we're talking cages, we're talking like specifics on everything. That is just such a unique concept, and I think FD sometimes portrays that you have to have this fully built Ferrari, fully built Mustang, right? Fully built 240. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I don't want people to feel like that's what you have to do.
Yeah, definitely with drifting, I mean, like I said, it is something you can get into really easy. So that's the difference, with FD and us.
Most sports. Most sports.
Most of them, yeah.
Like if you do football, like if you're an NFL player, you're going to be training for like 10 years. Yeah. You're probably when you're going into middle school being like combed and bred essentially to be an NFL player. Mm-hmm. Drifting, you could literally be whoever you want to be and just fucking sling it. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think that like what you're saying, I agree. Like it's just a different entry level. It's just you don't have to know anything. You just send it.
This is true.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with FD. I think a lot of people look down on FD, but I think Formula Drift, to be more specific, there's nothing wrong with it. It helps get the drifting into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of things I would like to see different, but I don't necessarily think that what they're doing is wrong currently. I think that it's all necessary, and then once we kind of get more into the mainstream, once we get into like more like kind of like the esports, right? Like esports is not a real thing, and then now it is. Like you see it playing at bars and stuff like that. Exactly. That's where drifting is realistically. It really is the same exact situation. So whatever helps us bring drifting to the forefront, that's great because the more that we get to the mainstream, the more that people are willing to pay. Like companies are willing to put in money to sponsor drivers and things like that. So exactly. I don't want people to hate on FD. Everything that is happening in drifting is happening for a reason, and it's a good reason. FD does a good enough job. I think. I've been there personally. You were with me too. Yeah. Like that was fun to watch. Being there in person is a lot different than what they show. And are there some issues? Yeah, there's always gonna be issues. There's always gonna be issues. That's just what it is. And I personally think that I don't want people to hate on that because they're like a more of a corporate side of drifting. Because that's necessary. Lone Star is fantastic for grassroots. Like, I want him to continue. But I do want FD to continue because that's also very important. And the more sponsors and companies that are willing to understand how many spectators and people are actually watching these things, they're going to be able to, pour money in sponsoring drivers. So it's a win-win. So it's just frustrating when I see, like, drifters being like, FD is so corporate. I'm like, yeah, it is. It definitely is, but it's necessary. Like, you will be thankful if you want to get professional, and if you want to be able to drive and not do anything else, you'll be thankful when these big companies like Coca-Cola can, think about a Coca-Cola sponsor. Like, think about NASCAR. I know, but think about NASCAR, right? NASCAR is pretty boring. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably angry hearing that. But, like, NASCAR is kind of boring because, yeah, right? And there's a lot of big name sponsors because it's just been around for so long. But now we're going into a literal sport where it's a spectator sport. Again, going back, like, that is going to be a big deal. So having that spectator sport, having all that excitement, then all these sponsors are like, oh, holy shit, people are like actually watching this shit. Like, oh, we should probably plug it in, right? We should probably sponsor these cars. We should probably make sure we have some commercial spots in this stuff. So, again, long story, very, very long. I don't think that FD is evil. I don't think that FD is doing anything wrong. I think that as a drifting community, right, that's nationally, that's internationally, that's worldwide, I think that we need to calm down on that conversation. I think it's a necessary thing, and I don't think we need to attack them like because I've seen some posts, and I'm like, we're just like, building down what we have or where we can go. It's just a necessary thing. So, yeah, you're welcome for that very long explanation. Hopefully, I didn't bore too many people. So another question for you that I saw: where do you see yourself in 5 years of driving? Where do you think you're gonna land at? Where do you want to be? How about that? That's a better question. Where would you like to see yourself? As far as a drifting sport, where would you like to be in 5 years? What does that look like for you?
I like to be in Pro 2 at least.
So Pro-Am.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Definitely next year I'm gonna try to hit all the stops. Try to hit out of state ones and stuff like that.
So what does that look? What is the ladder to that? What does that look like? Because a lot of people don't know what that takes.
I mean, it's gonna take definitely doing the Pro-Am events. It's definitely gonna take getting into this year might be next year. It might be terrible for me. In the year after that's the one I'm gonna have to like really build off of. This next year might be a really learning year for me. But again, the end of this year, actually I think the end of October we're having a Pro-Am event here.
Well, and you've done Pro-Am before.
Yeah, I broke my car like a couple.
Yeah, but you have done it, right? Like this isn't a new thing. It will be like more of a serious thing for you. But you have like gone into that.
I've gone into it. I think I broke my car literally the last practice run before the top 16. I just couldn't get it fixed in time. I broke a knuckle in half. I just couldn't get it welded back together at the time. But definitely this year is going to be we're gonna have one at Wild Horse. It's definitely gonna be a nice learning curve for me to get my foot in the door again. And the next year it's gonna be like outside, see how it goes. Different out of state tracks and stuff like that. I might, next year it might be like, oh, I ain't got enough power for this, or I can't drive these tracks or something like that. Who knows? Then next year is gonna be the year that.
Well, a great track for you would be Willow Springs.
We all like to go there.
I was there, and I wish that my car was there. I wish I was good enough to drive there, but that was awesome.
That's gonna be a track that blows up a car.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But definitely next year I'd like to definitely do every stop in Pro-Am. We'll see how it goes. And I definitely want to be in Pro 2. I want to definitely get up to that point in my driving experience.
Yeah. So 5 years, what? You're trying to be FD level?
It'd be nice, but man, the money.
No, and I think that's a good point too. And I've talked to a lot of local drivers who are in the same kind of spot, and that's the issue. And that goes back to exactly what we just talked about, right?
Exactly.
If we have enough sponsors that are willing to actually sponsor you guys into there, you guys can afford it.
Exactly.
So
the problem is getting the sponsors and getting the people to be watching this all the time. 'Cause, I mean, that's all it takes is a lot of people watching this,
right?
Spectators and stuff like that. So.
Well, and hopefully, I mean, just our podcast will help too, right? Kind of get more new blood in there, kind of more to the forefront. But also, just to touch on that too, I don't want people to feel like we're just focused on purely drifting. We definitely want to focus on other sports. This is just the conversation because me, Dustin, and Greg all do this. This is what our sport is.
Exactly.
So if we want to, I mean, we have already talked about the no prep. That was dope.
That stuff was sweet, man.
But that's the thing, and that's the thing with the whole DriverMod thing. We're not here to sponsor a sport. We're here to sponsor the drivers. And not to take away from what you were just talking about, but the big thing that I've learned just from starting this, I think 3 or 4 years ago, the way that you really have success is to to like be supportive of the driver, right? Because it really pisses me off when people get a new car and it's like this GTR or whatever, some fanboy car, and then everyone's like, "Oh, dude, what's up, bro? We want to do these shoots. We want to do this. We want to do this. Hey, you should become of this club, this team, whatever." And it's like, dude, where were you when I had my Honda Accord? Where were you when I had my '97 Honda Accord? right? I mean, I just have an Evo now, but like that, it's happened to me, and it's annoying. It's like, no one cared about like who I was until I had a cool car. So why are we supporting those people? We should be supporting the driver. And then as like finances change or like, times in your life change, cars change. You should support the person driving it, not the car. Fuck a car. That changes all the time. I mean, your car's changed, right?
Yeah.
You've already gone through a new chassis and like, and you re-sprayed your old car, got crashed, you switched over. That car no longer matters.
Exactly.
So that's been one thing that I definitely think that we've seen a lot of cool stuff happen, because when you support the driver, that kind of evolves as their car evolves, and taste evolves too, right?
Exactly.
Like a lot of people were stance boys that are now drifting, a lot of drifting people that are just stance boys, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully no one feels like that's upsetting,
I try
but
to keep the stance life in drifting.
right, and that's a
Style.
great point though, right? That's like the cool combination of like you having a very well set up car that's very functional while also having that really cool stancing look to it. And that's a cool thing. Like that's a lot of things you see with the YSFAB things where it definitely looks cool, but you can see like fender stuff and there's a lot of wheel gap and whatever, but you're able to kind of bridge that gap where it's like, yo, this car is hella dope that could be in a car show, but also that car is ripping on the track.
Exactly. Try to keep the style alive.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a whole nother conversation. But the long story here is that for anyone watching, definitely drifting is one of our passions, I think, right now. And that's something that I enjoy just because of the community aspect of things. But if anyone, has questions about drag racing or things that maybe we don't know about, we can always bring other people on, have the conversations between us, because we know a fair amount. Cars are cars. We know, like, we all follow these cool drag cars. We all drag trucks. Like, we're all into that. 1320, like, street racing, hella illegal shit. I used to be in those videos.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Go down to Mexico and do
Yeah,
that
exactly. Yeah, Mexico, not other places that I've named before in this podcast. But I'm just saying, like, because I've heard a couple people give some feedback about, the whole drifting thing, and it is it's just what we do right now.
Yeah.
So I definitely, if people want to hear about, street racing or some legal shit, I'm down. Just need to have someone that's like interested in that and bring that up in the questions for sure. So, yeah, I think that's all I have about that. But hopefully we can get you in a good spot with drifting for sure. I know that I've talked to a couple people and they're saying like they need 100,000 to even like be like kind of serious. Like they need a sponsor that will give them $100,000 cash. Because that's your salary for the whole year.
Yeah, it's literally a salary for a whole year for I mean, an average person usually makes like I think it's like 60, 80 a year. Mm-hmm. I mean, 100,000, man, that's a lot.
Right.
That's
that is a ton, but it's not really that much. If you think about it, I mean, like overall, like, oh, that's a big number. That's a lot of money. Yeah, for sure. But that's paying for like your gas, like everything.
Think about it. You're gonna go from here to grid life. You're taking your diesel, obviously pulling your trailer with your car and I don't know, 10, 12 pairs of tires. You're gonna smoke some tires, obviously.
Right.
You know how much diesel fuel you're gonna go into just doing that? I bet you go through $1,000 in diesel fuel.
Probably. Well, and that's, I think too, like people are like, oh, well, he's sponsored by so and so. It's like, well, he's sponsored by them, but he still has to pay for the tires.
He still has to pay for every single.
Like he's paying at cost, but he's still paying. So like the $100,000 of that other sponsor goes to those tire purchases.
Exactly.
So it's like that number sounds hella high, but it's really not that high.
But it's like, okay, you're smoking a pair of tires. They're $100.
Yeah, exactly.
They want a pair of $100 tires.
Right.
He's just saying, the $200 pair of tires,
Plus rent. Plus, like, you living.
Plus all your hotel fees and stuff like that, driving back and forth.
That's a good point, yeah. That is a really good point.
So, I mean, it gets expensive really quick, and minus, blowing trans or blowing motor or something happens, it's just going to...
Right. Which happens a lot. That's just the nature of drifting, dude. Or pushing a car more than it, like, really should be pushed, But, yeah, I mean, overall, we have a lot of different ideas here. I think that as long as we just kind of have an open discussion, it should be good. I mean, hopefully, we've had a lot of really good questions today. As we go, we'll kind of adapt and evolve on what we do, kind of do better things, and maybe get a couple more microphones. So there's like 4, just like really expensive. So,
I mean, even 3 people would be pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, like 2 people that's on all the time and a random person or something.
Right.
Throw questions at them all the time and stuff.
Yeah, but it's fun, dude. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think. Do we have any other questions that I'm missing?
No.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we've been doing this is now officially 2 hour marks. It's probably a good time to end it.
Holy crap.
Right.
man,
Long.
bro.
I know, dude. Right. But yeah, I appreciate everyone watching today. Again, you know, just a lot of different open conversations. Just want to talk about whatever everyone wants to hear. You know, we have no ulterior motive. There's no, I really would like to avoid having any high profile guests on this, you know, overall, if I can kind of avoid it. I'm not against it, but I just really, with this podcast, want to make sure we're giving the exposure to the people that deserve it. And, you know, I do love people like Chelsea and things like that, but I do want to bring it a little bit more to home to the people that really need that kind of exposure. So if you're interested in becoming, you know, a guest or whatever, or having conversation, as long as it's just going to be an open, I don't want to plug people, you know, organically. We've brought up a couple names of a couple companies, and that's fine. But I don't want it to feel like, again, the whole corporate thing where we're saying, shout out to so-and-so, shout out to, you know, I don't want that. I don't want to have like an end reel where you're just shouting out a bunch of people. But I do want us to be able to have an open conversation, and, you know, if people or companies are doing the right thing, that we're addressing it, which is exactly why, you know, I mentioned Bad Apples. Like, that is a group that I'm genuinely glad to be a part of, and that is actually doing a lot for the community. Same with like Desert Meehan and things like that, with the Track Society. A lot of good people doing good things, and I will always support those things. So anyway, long story short, thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Greg, for coming. If anyone's interested in joining this conversation, please let me know. Just send us, you know, instant message on Facebook, YouTube. I mean, there's like everything, right?
Yeah,
There's like
social
Twitter.
media.
I don't even want to do that, you know?
You got social media for anything.
Yeah, right. So, no, just feel free to reach out. I hope that everyone has enjoyed this. I think it's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely kind of weird for me, but, you know, yeah, for sure. But we'll definitely kind of go from here and just see how it happens. But I appreciate everyone joining. And seriously, if you do want to join, or if you have questions that you want answered, please be a part of our stream. I know sometimes it gets a little long, but hopefully it's somewhat entertaining. I know Greg's kind of boring, so. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys next week on Sunday, probably around 3 or 4, same time. And then eventually, as we grow, we'll just kind of stick with a certain schedule. But for now, we're kind of flexible. So look out for us every Sunday. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.